determine the likelihood that you will flood, and they're used to determine if you need flood insurance if you have a mortgage on your home. Now, the evacuation zones are based on storm surge data that comes from the National Hurricane Center, and they use topography as well as hurricane vulnerability for storm surge for the area, and we use those to determine who needs to evacuate during a storm. So it's important to understand that there is a difference. If you're interested in finding out what evacuation zone you are in, which we highly recommend you do, you can use your search engine of choice and type in Sarasota County Know Your Level, and that'll take you to the Sarasota County government website.
Frank Lamasson, Waste Manager, City of Northport. Here today with Mario Vendetti, planner scheduled for the City of Northport, Solid Waste Division. We're going to talk about bulk pickups today, how to schedule bulk pickups, what should go out and what should not go out to the curb, where to place the items, and then what happens if you have more than what's allotted for you for the year for a bulk pickup. So Mario, I know we call 941-240-8050, talk to our customer service reps.
That's correct.
About how to schedule a bulk pickup. How else can we do that?
You can also go on our website, northportfl.gov, click on solid waste, and fill out a bulk request form.
Excellent, excellent. So Mario, what about if a person wants to place it out, what should they place out? What's the right thing, what's the wrong thing?
Basically, Frank, anything that doesn't fit in the container, that's garbage, is going to go curbside. We're going to stay off driveways. What's not accepted is tires, chemicals, stuff like that. You can put yard waste out, that's considered bulk, but just make sure it's separate from the garbage pile.
Okay.
Yard waste is a separate pickup.
So what happens if I use all my bulk pickups already?
Good question. So you can have more, but you just have to pay. It's going to be $16.50 a cubic yard, and that's length times width times height divided by 27 is 1 cubic yard.
Any questions? Of course, let us know. Give us a call, 941-240-8050.
Water in a swale, that's kind of the ditch by your house, is not flooding. After a storm event, water should be in that swale up to 72 hours after the storm. That allows the water to be filtered, to get the stuff that came off our roofs and off the road out of the water so that when it reaches the habitat, it no longer has those contaminants in it. It also provides an opportunity to slow down water so that the water doesn't go so fast that it erodes the roadways or any other infrastructure. So when you see water in a swale, if it's only been, up to 72 hours since the last rain, that is not flooding, that is doing its job.
I'm Stacey Losio. I'm the emergency manager for the City of Northport, and today we're going to discuss storm surge and flooding and how both of those affect Northport during a hurricane. So storm surge is when strong, sustained winds are constantly blowing over a long period of time over the Gulf and pushing water up onto shore. So when that happens, there is a lot of flooding and beach erosion along the beaches and the homes inland. However, the storm surge can also push water up the river. So it could push storm surge up the Myakka River, for instance, from the Gulf, and then the water coming down.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, October 6, 2025. It's 10 a.m. We're in the city chambers, and I call the City Commission workshop meeting to order. Commissioners present: Commissioner Duval, Commissioner Langdon, Mayor Stokes, Vice Mayor Emmerich, and Commissioner Petro. There's a quorum present for the meeting. Also present, City Manager Fletcher, Interim City Attorney Golan, City Clerk Faust, Board Specialist Lindner, Police Chief Garrison, and Deputy Chief Herlihy. Larry, would you be kind enough to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Before I ask for public comment, City Manager, would it be appropriate at this time, can we reorder our workshop agenda a little bit to bring with the guests we have here in the audience? I hate to have to have them sit through two other agenda items that may run a couple hours long and move discussion possible direction regarding condition of community service facility up front. Yes. Need a consensus from my fellow commissioners. Make sure that's okay. Yeah. Everybody good? Commissioner Petrov, you're a yes. Vice Mayor? Yes. I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
All right, we got a consensus. Very good. And with that, I'll ask, are there any public comments out there?
Mr. Rando, you gotta give them emergency people all the money they need. Them need a good place for the emergency preparedness. You're heard, support them, much love. Nonprofits. Commissioners, thank you for being one of the only local boards to allow public comment during workshops. For the past 8 months, Kiwanis held meetings with other nonprofits to brainstorm how to get one giant multi-purpose building for meetings, artists, Loveland Center activities, and the Backpack Angels. Senior Center and Awaken reps never attended because they were told the building was available for 3 more years. Now that the center is at risk, many nonprofits would do fundraising to either help fix or rebuild it, especially if they can use it from time to time. Foundations in Sarasota will help nonprofits rebuild in partnership with the city. Let's talk to them. Read the online comments. The majority want a safe place for seniors and agree there's a need for a community pantry. We are willing to pay a few extra dollars in taxes for a new building. Without a pantry, an estimated 5,000 kids will suffer. All of the 11 schools is at 52% or more of kids on free or reduced lunch. Glen Allen is at 76%. This also means they aren't eating weekend meals without pantry assistance. Awaken helps 250 families for the holidays and the Day of Hope in the summer. Without these services, our officers will be arresting people who are desperate and stealing from Walmart and other stores. Social Services, Toys for Tots, Shop with a Cop, and Kiwanis will all be impacted without Awaken doing their part and helping families at Christmas. Please allow portable units on the footprint of the building if it's knocked down. Please allow Awaken to operate using the parking lot and help the displaced seniors. They won't drive far from where the senior center is now. Some walk there or drive the back roads to avoid going on US 41. The center is a lifeline for them. They participate in fall prevention classes, play cards, and get food from Awaken. Awaken services as second responders after hurricanes and other disasters. They partner with All Faiths Food Bank and out-of-state churches with resources others don't have. In person, I have Joe Morgan, followed by Chuck English.
Good morning, Joan Morgan, okay? Now I'm aging myself. Back when the senior center was talked about, and that's what I call it, not community center, because that's what we called it. I'm the only one alive that was on that committee, all right? And the reason I was on the committee, because at the time I was the youngest of all commissioners, I was 32, and you were department chairman, so I was the chairman of the Transportation, Education, and Recreation Committee, and the Senior Citizen Center, which was about to be contemplated, was educational and recreational. The people who worked on that Senior Citizen Center were dedicated. As I say, I was 32. The youngest on that committee was 74, okay? And they would tell me in 35 and 33 years, once it's open, I can walk in and use it. The people were dedicated, they cared, that was their lifeline. Wilfred Churchill was a royal pain to work with. He had one goal in mind, and that was that center, and he was 24/7 on it. And we had so many meetings, and they cared so much. Remember, the majority of the citizens then were senior citizens, okay? And this was a very important link to them. Wilford Churchill, on our last official meeting, which was supposed to be, was just kind of slap on the back. We did it, hooray, this is gonna be. We ordered a few more tables and chairs, and that was it. And just enjoyed ourselves that day. Guess what, folks? He died that night. He died of a heart attack. That was his baby. His mission was done. The heart that he worked so hard to keep going was gone. Let me tell you something. He and the other members of that committee are going to come back and haunt you if you do anything to that building. I swear to God, they will find a way. Okay? Helen Marchese, right here, how many years in devotion has she put into that building? And a lot of these other people. That building means something. We can't just tear down every single building that's got mold and that. I know it's bad. I don't have the solution. But we've got to find a better solution because we just can't tear them down and rebuild. It's time and it's money. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of money, and these are needed. Besides the senior center, okay, what's there is the Awakened Church and the food pantry. Everything that was said is so true. That food pantry is saving the lives of people. It has to be. Started at New Hope Church, it's developed through the years, and it has become bigger and bigger and bigger, and God bless everyone who works for it, and God bless everything that is being done there. But that food pantry is absolutely needed. It's vital. The Senior Citizen Center is vital. It serves a huge portion of this community, and it is needed. So please, find something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. As far as the senior center and the food bank, I remember when they were built, okay, and they've outshined themselves as a fixture within our community for decades. What you do with that building impacts a significant segment of our community. But every one of you know that, you know, and I'm sure it's going to be a tough decision, whatever you do. The thing that bothers me after researching is the lack of proactive maintenance on many of our buildings, okay? That's where the tragedy really lays. Yeah, we've had a few hurricanes over the years, but them buildings that stand over the years. Again, research tells me it's a lack of proactive maintenance. I have another issue, and I hope you all make the right decisions because people notice. Now, I have another issue. It relates to boards and committees. Recently, I was subject to removal from a board. I believe I notified these absences, but here's my issue. I believe the policy 4, as it relates to boards and committees, is flawed. It lacks notification of the commission to removal, right, for one. Also, it has no mechanism for appeal to the commission, and the vote for removal is not done by the commission, as they are commission boards and committees, not administrative. You vote these people onto these boards. These people step forward to serve. No matter what the reasoning is for their removal, they should at least deserve the respect to be able to appeal and have a vote of the commission to remove them. There's the flaw. And for myself, I'd already notified staff that I intended, because of health reasons, to step down after my term, which is in November. I'll still attend the meetings till November and serve out my term, but not as a member of the board. Thank you. It's flawed. And the majority of this commission knows it's flawed. Thank you. Blessed day.
Thank you. All right. So let's start with 25-2805, discussion possible direction regarding relating to the condition of the community services facility. City Manager, your item to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll introduce the item and then we'll have some of our teams come up and discuss more of the costs that were included with the item. But the community services facility located at 4940 Pan Am Boulevard was constructed in 1977 with multiple additions through 1982 and is currently leased to the Northport Senior Center and Awaken Outreach Center. The original and first edition are pre-engineered metal buildings, while the 1982 edition is masonry. The facility maintenance division assessments, including third-party engineering and cost engineers, have determined there are a number of deficiencies as follows in the building. There's extensive corrosion in roof and structural steel components. There's outdated and non-compliant roofing system incapable of meeting current wind load requirements. ADA non-compliance in thresholds, corridors, rooms, and doorways. Lack of sprinkler system and alarm systems. Energy code non-compliance due to insufficient insulation. And water intrusion and aging sanitary water distribution ductwork and electrical systems. The immediate cost of repairs is $574,956 with an additional $202,000 needed within about 5 years. And any substantial renovation would qualify as a level 3 alteration under the Florida Building Code, triggering full compliance upgrades, rendering phase repairs inefficient and ultimately more expensive. It is our opinion, based on what you've already heard today, that we do recognize and share the same value of these two partners in this particular building. It is a question of the commission's decision as to how to move forward due to the age and the expense of the upcoming cost to maintain the building and keep it up to code if that is done as well. We do have a construction cost estimate of improvements that was included in the background that might show you more line item detail, which totals from, I want to say $574,000 that was mentioned to about $2 million. But we're happy to put that up and have a discussion regarding any questions you might have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'll open it up to you. Names up if you want. I mean, I'll go first if you want. Commissioner Langdon, I guess.
You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my take is that the Awaken Food Pantry and the Senior Center are integral parts of this community. And while, I'm sure there's all kinds of arguments for pros and cons as to whether or not citizens' tax dollars should go to support these. I personally believe they should. I believe that we should find money for this, whether we find a way to keep these buildings patched for the next few years, or whether we take a different approach and put some trailers there so they can continue to operate and tear that building down and build a new building. My feeling is we need to try to find the money somehow to do this. While I can see an argument made for, hey, why should the citizens have to pay for this? Why? Because you all are citizens. Because if we were to close down one of our community centers, there'd be an uproar over the impact of families and kids. What about our seniors? What about the thousands of people who benefit from the food pantry? Do we want to chase them across the line to Port Charlotte or somewhere else? There are plenty of projects that this city is entertaining that will make us more efficient as a city, govern better as a city, but don't directly help the citizens as much as this project would. So it would be my thought that we should direct staff to find this money and take it from somewhere else that's already been budgeted and We can talk about where, but I think that we need to make sure that we provide a home for these two groups and find a way somehow to do it. That's just my personal opinion. Commissioner Langdon?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions before I opine. So first, if the immediate needs are taken care of, does that precipitate the need to bring things up to current code?
Chuck Speak, Public Works Director. So if we make those repairs that are needed, that would likely trigger that 50% rule to bring it up to code. And that's why you have those other numbers that we included.
Likely. Do we have, so the FEMA rule is 50% of the value of the property. I suspect in its current condition, it wouldn't bring a lot if we tried to sell it. But I would have to think we could do those immediate repairs. Could we confirm whether or not that would trigger the FEMA requirement?
Sure.
I'm going to have him go put this up.
Good morning, Kim Humphrey, Project Manager, Public Works. So what would trigger the 50% rule would be the plumbing work that the building needs. The roof would have to be brought up to code when we replace it, which would also require some structural repairs at the same time. But the failing sewer lines would be, and it's really 50% of the area of the building when it comes to Florida Building Code, not really the value of the building like FEMA is.
I don't recall the FEMA rules. What kind of window would we be looking at? So if we decided to do the immediate repairs, what's the trigger? How much time would we have before we would be required to bring that building up to code?
So Florida Building Code dictates that whatever you touch has to be brought up to code as part of the project and brought up to the code in place at the time that the work is done. So if we were to do the roof this year, you would have to bring the roof up to the Florida Building Code current standard. If we were to do plumbing 12 months from now, then you would have to bring everything up to code that you touch. Once you hit 50% of the area of the building, then the entire project is, you have to bring everything up to code. That's a level 3 alteration.
Okay. Second question, have we had any conversations with the nonprofits that occupy that building in terms of their interest in contributing somehow to the repairs, either through fundraising or perhaps wanting to purchase the building? Have we had any conversations with the inhabitants of that building?
So when we received the information that you received in a memo from us, that was the first time we communicated that information. Part of what we believe the commission has done in the past is once you get the information, you would direct us to engage the occupants to say those same things. We've said those same things. And ideally, we would like to work on something that the city could partner with the occupant on in order to make a transition that works out best for safety of the building and the life of the building as well as the occupants who are there. So there's been no discussion as to what could happen, but we are thinking the same way. We're thinking the same options that you're thinking.
Okay, okay. So here's what I'm thinking. I agree with everything that the mayor said in terms of the importance of these activities. We heard earlier from a public commenter, perhaps chastising us a little bit for not maintaining the buildings better over the years. There's almost only so much money, folks. And we try to keep taxes low in this city because we know a lot of people who live here are struggling to make ends meet. Last time I checked, I don't think we have a money-making machine anywhere on city property to make the money happen. But I'm kind of thinking I would be open to trying to find some of the money. I also think that our nonprofits, it's not a bad thing to have some skin in the game and to help through fundraising, and to work with the city, perhaps to try to repair these buildings or do something, you know, whatever the appetite is of the nonprofit leadership. But I agree, I mean, this building is just in terrible, terrible shape. And I haven't seen any budget anywhere in the city for the repair of these buildings. In fact, when we did our facility analysis, several of the buildings, including this one, were tagged for demolition because of their condition. But again, I would be open for working with the occupants of those buildings, and if we can somehow fix the most egregious aspects of the building, things that are really safety concerns, to give us some time, perhaps we can figure something out. I would hate to lose the food pantry. I would hate to lose the senior center from this community. But we're gonna have to get really creative, folks. We can't do it alone. You know, we just went through the budget. If anyone's been watching, we have, and I struggle to retain these numbers, but we have $275 million in capital projects that really need to be done in the next 5 years. That's outrageous. So I'm open to a conversation, but we're really gonna need help and partnerships. And oftentimes our nonprofits are in a better position to secure some grants than the city is. But I'm open to talking about it and figuring out what we can do. I don't have the answers right this moment, but I'm very open to exploring some options. That's
Thank
it for me.
Vice Mayor.
All right, I've heard this a few times over the last few days, and I'd really like to get to the roots of this conversation on when Awaken was told that they still had 3 more years. Was the conversation recent? Was it a year or so ago? When did this conversation take place? Because if it's a current conversation, then, you know, it's not very good when we promise them they still have 3 years and then we're springing this on them.
I'm not aware that Awaken was told they had 3 more years. In 2020, when I tried to do roof repairs to this building and all we could do was basically put a coating over it, it's because a structure wouldn't handle a new roof.
Okay.
I told the commission at that time, and the tenants at that time were told that this building was coming up on end of life. That was in 2020.
Okay, well, I just wanted to know where those conversations were.
Yes, sir.
If we were to do the immediate repairs, would the building still be able to be occupied during those repairs?
So unfortunately, not. On the Awaken side, the way the metal roof is, there's no deck underneath it. So I believe that's why a few years ago we looked at the possibility of roofing over the top, so they could continue to utilize the building during construction. But when we pull this roof, there's nothing underneath it.
So, I mean, and how long would that take? How long would it displace?
Honestly, until I have a structural engineer take a look at the repairs that would need to be done to the structure underneath, I can't say. I know for certain we would have to have some more weld points. There's a lot of deteriorated conditions in the structure.
Okay, and could you possibly give me a timeline on how long that would take to get that information before you even started repairs?
I'm probably within a month and a half. You know, we could do some additional exploratory on the structural members, figure out how much it would take to repair those and the replacement of a new roof.
Okay, and another question I had was, while these repairs are going on, it would be brought up to the current code, correct?
Right, so we're really looking at.
As part of the replacement of the roof, yes, it would have to be brought up to current code. The roof alone, though.
Okay, and the reason I'm getting to this is trying to stretch it out to the 50% mark. Because if you gotta bring this up to code and then, okay, that's fixed, well, how much more can we do on repairs before we hit that 50% mark? And again, it's timelines. Would it be a year, 2 years, 3 years before we hit that threshold? And then possibly at that time say, well, okay, well, we don't wanna repair it completely because it's a $2 million price tag, and then we revisit the situation on, okay, we're gonna tear it down and then possibly have a partnership with portables going in there for nonprofits, or whatever the case may be. That's down the road. But I'm trying to extend the life of where we're at now without having to make a decision within a year and displace both of these groups. So I'm trying to stretch it out. That's what I'm trying to look at.
So looking at the work that's needed most immediately, right now the water distribution and sanitary lines are at the end of their life. That would be the work that needs to happen, that would require us to touch 50% of the building and therefore bring everything into compliance.
Okay, but you said it's at the end of its life. A lot of our seniors are at the end, but they're not dead. But they're not dead. So how many, how much life is still left in those water lines to where, again, we prolong the inevitable on having to do this to where we can stretch out more time? That's where I'm basically trying to get at.
My crystal ball doesn't show me that today. I don't know. I know they are due for replacement. There's some problems with them. I don't know how much more time they have on them, but they are due for replacement now.
Right, I'm just saying maybe we can squeeze another year out of them and keep moving forward, and maybe 2 years, I don't know. I'm trying to stretch out this timeline as best as possible, because I don't wanna, especially when we talk next year, we're talking about, the Awakens, the lease is up in June or July, and we extended the senior center to that point to make a decision on, are we gonna close the building, or what are our plans? But again, that's a wrong time as well, is in the middle of the summer with Awaken, that's when all of our school kids are out, and they're not getting school lunches, they're not getting fed at school. So relying on the homestead to be able to eat is a very tough situation, especially throughout the summertime. So even if we were to go there, I'd be game to extend those leases until November-ish, just to get through the summer months. But that's another conversation down the road. Just with this workshop, we're just trying to figure out where we're going with this, and what I'm hearing on the board is they're willing to put, the immediate fixes in, but I just don't want to do the immediate fix and then we got to come up with $2 million and then we got to jump on it, So it's got to be planned properly. So right now it said 500,000, and then I believe the city manager said 200,000 over the next 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Petra.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the mayor that these two entities, two non-profits, are an integral part of our community. My question is, how much was the monthly lease for both tenants that we were collecting as a city?
Hi, Janet Carrillo, Social Services Manager for the record. So there's two tenants there. A senior center is $200 monthly, and Awaken is $400 because they have 2 spaces. So there's 3 spaces at the CEC. Each space is $200.
So $600 total on a
Yes.
monthly basis.
Yes.
What were we using this money for?
It goes to the general fund.
So we were not allocating to do any repairs for that money from
That
those
would be.
funds?
So facilities maintenance budget comes from general fund. So You can say that some of that money goes to facilities maintenance. I don't track where that 600 a month goes. But it goes into the general fund, which is where the facilities maintenance budget comes out of.
And can you tell us how much of preventive maintenance was done to those units for the past 12 months?
At the bottom of this
Or
one?
even going backwards 2 years, 3 years?
Sure. So in 2024, we responded to 62 work orders and 44 were repairs, special requests for service. In 2025, there were 45 work orders and 27 were repairs for repairs or special requests for service.
If we demolish the building, what would be the land to be used for if we go that route? What would be planned
That would be a decision for the commission.
as a recommendation from the staff, I mean?
We would follow the direction of the commission.
Can't dodge it.
And if we decide to repair, how do we finance those repairs and how soon can it be repaired? The immediate needs.
So the plumbing, we would have to go out to bid for that plumbing. There would probably have to be a scope developed for that work. The roof would be the same thing, and that one's a little more intense because it will take structure engineers to fix. Remember, this is a metal building that has deteriorated. The actual structural members are deteriorating under the roof.
Okay.
So you're looking probably several months before you start any work.
As I'm thinking out loud, to put another metal building doesn't take too much time, correct? If we go that route.
I mean, depending upon how we would want to modify the design in the next iteration, I would say 9 months for design and a year for construction, if we were to remove and replace the facility.
Because I've seen the metal buildings come online really fast, especially after the hurricane. The one on Greenwood, how much time did it take the city to put it
Well,
up?
what you don't see is all the upfront work for the design and the permitting. So once you actually have it fabricated and it starts going up on site, it is very fast. I mean, 2 months tops for complete fit and finish. But the design and permitting, I wouldn't say any less than 9 months.
And just as a recommendation to my fellow commissioners, I'm in for addressing immediate needs and possibly upcoming needs, and we have to find the money for that. But in tandem, I would start working on the design and put up a shell of a metal building, which does not require too much of a design. I mean, it does require design, but it's not a complicated design. What would you advise us on that route as far as the tandem, to do it in tandem?
Again, we're here to present this information and look for direction from the commission on which way to go. I can tell you that you can make these repairs now and work design at the same time, but then you're going to have to fund these repairs as well as fund that design portion, which likely around $200,000.
Sure. And there's a cost for everything, but at this point, I mean, at this workshop, I don't know if it's even feasible to make a concrete decision right now because we have not discussed prior to this publicly. And especially, we have not consulted or we have not reached out to our tenants. And when I say tenants, these are not just tenants, that they are part of the community. So if they have some ideas that we can share, or they can share with the staff and present it back to us, that would be probably a good and efficient way to do it. Because we can only guess what they think, right? We got enormous amount of emails and phone calls and people that approached us as the commissioners, but we don't have the entire picture to make the decision right now. So I would be very hesitant to make any concrete decision right now. I see the city managers.
Commissioner, just as a reminder, as we're bringing this to you in a workshop, that's the purpose, which is not for you to make a decision today. If we would have brought it as a regular meeting, then we would have said, we need to know what action you want us to take, but our goal was for your awareness so that we didn't get further down the line once we received the information from the third party, so that we would all be on the same page, so to speak, as to what's coming 9 months down the road. And then as with the Art Center, you gave us direction to work with them as they were trying to figure out how to vacate their space at Dallas White Park. We were looking for something of that same nature to go work with Larry and his team, or Pastor, and sort of try to figure out how to see if there was something that both the city and the tenant could agree to. That's what we were looking for today.
That would be it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. You know, listening to my fellow commissioners so far, it seems there's a leaning towards like finding a way to make this work and keep Awaken Food Pantry and the Senior Center, you know, in place in some fashion. I think it would be helpful for this commission to give clear direction to staff that if in fact that's how the commission feels, that we make a commitment morally to keep them in place, find a way to transition, whether we gotta fix the building, whether we gotta tear it down and build a new building. I don't have the answers to that. That's what you all get paid so much money for. So I say we direct staff to go figure it out. But I'd like to see this commission make a commitment to going in that direction, and that to let our seniors, let our food pantry folks know we're not going to abandon them. We're going to stick with them. We want them to be there. We're going to find a way to raise the money, because that's the third piece of this. The first is a commitment to keep them in place. The second is finding a transition and a way to do this. Do we patchwork it for a period of time? Do we stretch this out? Do we bite the bullet and put some temporaries in there and tear it down and build a real proper facility? Okay? And then the third piece is, where the heck are we going to find the money for it? And, you know, I would say that, you know, we could, in a way, form this, you know, in the form of 3 consensuses, so that staff has a good direction as to what to do and how to come back here. Because I think these people are owed a commitment on the part, at least a moral commitment on the part of this commission, to say, hey, we're going to find a way to keep it open. We're going to find a way to keep you in place. We're not going to tear that building down and leave you to fend for yourselves. I mean, we are the commission. We set policy, we set direction. We have the right to do that. And I think it's a good message to send, not just the folks who are here in this room, but everybody in the city, that when it comes to spending our tax dollars, we're going to start making tough decisions. Some of these dollars, a lot of our tax dollars, get spent to improve the quality of governance, the way we govern, our resources that we pool and utilize to provide government services. But there are a lot of things that directly affect the lives of our citizenry. And to me, we need to see we spend some of those dollars there. There'll be other discussions today and into the future about where this commission and past commissions have decided to spend their dollars. And in this climate, with what we're going to be facing over the next couple of years, easy over the next couple of years, we better start figuring out how we're going to be more efficient and how we make sure the dollars go to directly benefit our citizens. Otherwise, all we're going to be doing is building another building, which is going to have to be maintained, taken care of, improved, you name it. I mean, there are other projects just like this, and we need to start really bearing down. Everybody can go do a couple more rounds of this, and then at some point I'm going to make, you know, or offer up a consensus if no one else, or a couple of them. So, Commissioner Langdon, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't feel in a position to say at this moment that I'm ready to make a commitment to keep people in place, because I'm not sure that's the right answer. Before I can really make a decision, staff has done a really good job of identifying what needs to happen in order to repair this building. But I want to know, what would it cost to tear it down and put up a simple metal structure? Because I think that's the other alternative to all of this. And I'm not a contractor, but we do have someone who has that experience. But sometimes it's cheaper to just start over than trying to prop up a building that truly is end of life. So I have some specific questions, and if you want me to phrase it for a consensus, I'm happy to. But
Commissioner, before you go forward, and I'm really breaking a little bit of protocol, but if you indulge me, because I don't want the thought to get lost as we go round and round on this, is should we possibly see this opportunity as an opportunity? We have such small quantities of land that the city actually owns and controls. Okay, right now we have two very valuable tenants that occupy space on this property along with our social services building. Have we given any thought, and should we give any thought to, assuming we can accommodate the transition, tearing these buildings down and really building something on that property that can not just take care of Awaken Food Pantry and our seniors, but provide some additional space resources that may create efficiencies, cost efficiencies elsewhere. I mean, whether it's whether there's money-making opportunity with a hive-type mindset, or whether it's other social services type opportunities in that building. I'm just, there's two ways to do it. Do it on a cheap build-a-metal building to replace what's there, or build it out and see it as a bigger picture. It has just such direct benefit to our individual citizens. So I just don't want to lose that concept.
Well, make a note of it, because I think I still have the floor.
You do, and I
Thank you, Mayor.
apologize and thank you for letting me butt in.
Okay, so here are the questions I need answers to. Should rents be raised? Should rents go to the maintenance of these buildings? But even more importantly, what are the costs to tear it down? So forget those, because they're secondary. I really need to know, what are the costs for tearing down this building and replacing it current footprint, the simplest building possible to replace current space, just to sort of balance out these numbers. Then I would also, the other questions I have related, if we move in a direction of tear down and replacement, whatever that footprint looks like, what are the cost of trailers? We have a lot of experience with that, so that shouldn't be very hard. What are the cost of trailers to sort of keep both of these groups in that general space? And can the occupants cover some or all of those rental costs? They're pretty high, as I recall. But I think we just need to have that information so that the current occupants have some data points as well to make some decisions. And I know raising the rents would be really, Janet, it would be head exploding to
So if I can just touch on the rent side of that, we're still preparing the facility lease policy to come back to commission that will allow you to determine what those rates will be related to market. We're in a final review with legal now, so that will be coming
Because I know
before
we
you
have to
shortly.
treat everybody fairly, so if we
Correct.
raise one, then we really have to look at raising all.
Correct. And
So-
this policy will kind of take care of that across the board.
Right. So that would really help me. It would sort of flesh out what the immediate situation is. I would be perfectly willing today to say that we are committed to aggressively working with the occupants to find a solution to this problem, that it's certainly our desire to keep these groups in place because they provide such valuable services for our community. I'm just reluctant to go further than that until we have a little more information, until staff has an opportunity to have a conversation with the occupants and how are they feeling, and how do they think they might be able to contribute to a solution, and then come back at a later date to be more specific. I don't know if you'd be comfortable with that, Mayor, but.
Commissioner Duval?
Thank you, Mayor. My first concern is looking at the picture and seeing daylight coming through the walls. Is the building safe for use? Secondly, the folks that are using it as the senior center, I've seen some of the public comment emails and things. They like where they're at, you know, and they don't want to move far away. But there's so many different issues here. Keeping the services available is important. And that's where I'd like to break things down a little bit into each individual group. We have an art community that's looking for help, looking for a building they used to have. The Kiwanis are also involved in using this building over social services, and they're looking for something. The seniors are not a nonprofit, they're citizens, and we provide services. Awaken, I don't know a lot about Awaken except they seem to give a lot of things away. And I don't know if they use that building 7 days a week or is it just on Saturdays? Addressing Awaken. Temporarily, if their services, you know, their giveaways, their food giveaways that they do, if they just have their equipment, their tables, their food storage in the building, and then they only have their services on 1 day a week, 3 days, 2 days a week, why couldn't they move somewhere like the Morgan Center, where we could put a storage trailer for their equipment, and then they could have the space for their giveaways on Saturdays and Sundays. Social services, these people don't want to move far away, and I understand that. Mobility, when you're a senior, isn't as easy as when you're 6 years old. Maybe temporarily putting portable trailers in some place like Dallas White Park, or in the, I don't know how much physical space we have right there on Pan American, where it's located now. I look at $500,000 to repair this now versus spending $500,000 on those portables for a couple of years while we demolish this and put in a building that might be able to service a number of nonprofits and organizations. Like right now, the Art Center, they're looking for a 50-year lease over by Dallas White Park. But we also have some opportunities, I've heard some talk about having opportunities of revenue, like a rowing company, I believe was mentioned, that could provide us revenue at that space. So maybe we could get the Art Center, the Kiwanis, the Service Center, Waken Church, all in one larger building that we build. Get plans for now and work on it and get it built. So, so that we're not back here in 3 years asking the same questions. As far as maintenance, I would really like to see maintenance of all city properties, buildings. If something's wrong, fix it now. If there's a light bulb fall out, change the light bulb. If the paint's peeling, paint it. Waiting until, you know, and like with this building, you know, I looked at some of the pictures, you know, the ADA requirements and everything, you know, where there's a urinal having 14 inches versus 9 inches of space next to it. These are things that we really can't fix in an old building. There's been upgrades and things. And I hate to see us throw good money after bad. Long run, I'd rather see a new facility. And if we can somehow do something temporarily, you know, a hybrid, Waken Church goes over to the Morgan Center or the Mullen Center somewhere. Service center, we put in portables either on the property or close by at Dallas White Park, and work at it from that aspect of things. You know, as I say, my overall thing is, you know, do some things temporarily, but long-range plan, it's time for a new building. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor, you're up.
You want to do the city attorney first? He's on your board too.
Pence, is he going to say something I like? Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to be sensitive to the situation that you're dealing with, but I want to be able to put a legal perspective on it when spending taxpayers' dollars. So we have to ensure that it's for the public purpose is clearly identified, and some of the suggestions that I've heard go a little bit beyond what maybe, I'm not saying 100% is, but maybe further than we can legally go using those dollars. Fixing the building the city owns to make sure that it is habitable is one thing, but kind of expanding that into other areas or putting portables in other areas may be a stretch, and we would have to look into that as we got closer to a decision being made, if that's the direction the commission wants to go, and just to kind of throw a legal perspective onto that for you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, you just took the wind out of my sails. No, I'm good.
Commissioner Petra.
Yes, I guess it's okay to go in rounds because this is the only time we as a commission, we can talk to each other publicly about the situation. As the city attorney said, sensitive in the nature. But I would like to see additional information regarding how much capacity each organization needs as far as the square footage. And that information is important for us and going forward, because if we do temporary facilities, we need to know how much they need.
Can I get a clarifier on that? Are you looking for what capacity they need? Because that may be different than what capacity we actually have on site currently.
Both.
Okay.
Basically, do they need refrigeration for the food, or the food trucks come and they distribute on the spot the entire load? Or do they need to have refrigeration to store? Or maybe it's non-perishables that they need to store, things of that nature.
Sure, so we can get you the square footage of the buildings that are in place.
Sure.
But you want us to go a step further and ask what they would like?
What they need.
What they would need.
At this point,
Okay.
we do addressing the needs and the need of the community rather than wants, so.
Okay, yes, sir.
because we do need, like I said, it's more of a servicing the community and citizens of our city. So how much capacity each organization requires for the food, for the gathering of seniors. I don't know exactly what they do when they gather in one place, either games or, I have no idea, I'm not there yet. But, and I do believe as the conversation develops, or developing, I can see that Commissioner Duvall's point that it's rather be wise to have temporary storage or facility to have than addressing the needs and then eventually demolish the buildings and all the money we spend on that building. So I would like to see them to be near that area, and because there's a big parking lot, right? And I do believe we did redo the parking lot just recently.
Yeah, around 2020.
So it's fairly fresh.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to see the report as far as how much renting of storage or facilities that are needed as opposed to buying them. Because by the time we're gonna design, build, we might spend the same money and still own those facilities, the portables, I mean. So that would be an efficiency and a due diligence on the city staff as far as the homework.
Rent before you own it.
But then we would need to know in advance how much square footage they require, how much the other entity requires. So it's rather wisely to buy the storage or portables and own it for the rest of the life of those units than renting, because renting is not cheap. Those units are expensive to rent.
Yes, sir. About 2 years is your break point on renting versus purchase.
So that's basically the answer. It's more beneficial to buy them or finance them to buy them, whatever the case might be. As the conversation develops, I do believe we probably have to look more realistically at the situation and possibly knock it down without interruption of the actual needs and daily activities. I do believe that we can use this 6 days a week. That
5 to 6 days, yes, sir.
5 to 6 days. So without interruption of the workflow that they do. And I grant that they do it out of the abundance of the kindness of their heart, because they don't get paid to do that stuff. So these are my kind of requirements or thoughts about that we need. And if you can give us more breakdown of how much the design would be, how much the square footage of the future building, and the time frame of the design and the time frame of erecting those facilities, or it would be one building split in how many units, 3 units or 2 units. So we can have an idea of the time frame of the construction and the design.
For construction of a new facility.
Of the new facility, yes.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of work from, I guess, prep work behind the scenes is required before we can make a decision. I don't want to make a decision on lack of information. That's why I said in my first address that I would be very hesitant, just like Commissioner Langdon said. It's hard to make a decision right now because we don't have all the information. But I'm leaning towards that it's more financially responsible, to be fiscally responsible, to probably knock it down, but not interrupting their activities of these two entities. Thank you, Mayor. That would be all.
And that's what we're looking for is direction today.
Yeah,
We're not looking for a decision.
Before I recognize Commissioner Langdon, this is a workshop, to repeat. We do not make decisions here. We talk about things here, and we figure out some general direction we can give staff. You know, I mean, people say a lot of things about staff, some good, some bad, but they are definitely subject matter experts in their own right. It is their job to figure this out, to figure out and to present to us the alternatives for how we might do this, how we might transition it, what the costs are, what the alternatives are, whether we go new, whether we go partial, whether we do whatever we do. That's your job, to put it together, to figure out how, bring it to us and present it. But clearly, we need to give direction that says, after all, this workshop item was a consensus to direct city manager to move forward with the decommissioning and demolition of community services facility. I would say from what I've heard here today, that doesn't seem to be the desire of anybody on this board without a clear plan as to how we're going to retain our valuable tenants and citizens in the facility or a new facility that they're in. So we need to give direction that with this idea in mind, go do some homework, put this together, come back with some alternatives, some plans, some details, some information addressing everything you've heard from us here today, and then we see where we go. But clearly, we're sending a message that we don't want to demolish this building and leave our two tenants, valuable tenants, to their own devices. We want to try to make this work and figure out a way we can provide a facility for them to operate on that property. So, I mean, with that, I don't know if you were planning on putting a consensus together, but the floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I have 3 consensuses.
Mayor, we have public comment.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I don't have consensus yet, but I wanted to make a statement, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Because I was after Commissioner Langdon. I love this guy over here. The more homework he gives them, the longer it's going to take. So we'll be back in about 5 years to discuss this. Y'all are okay. That's all I have.
Well, thanks very much for your valuable input, Vice Mayor. Mr. Langdon, you got the floor.
Okay.
Public comment.
Oh, yeah, let's public comment before we go. Sorry.
Debbie McDowell, I just don't get it at all. This is the first public meeting regarding the conditions of the community service building, AKA senior center, and staff's recommendation is to go straight for the jugular and recommend demolishing the building. The building is 48 years old, for heaven's sake. Just 2 months ago, there was a workshop to discuss the infrastructure needs of the city for the next 35 years. There was a line item stating $117 million will be needed for city facilities. Go back and look at the exhaustive list broken out by project. The community service building didn't even make the list, not 1 penny allocated, but suddenly there's millions of dollars in need of repairs. How did that get overlooked and left off the list? This list of necessary repairs for this building is quite extensive. Those kind of repairs take years to get to the point of demolition. Why wasn't this brought to the commissioner's attention long ago? Why wasn't the money put into the budget to start planning to do these necessary repairs when they could have been repaired? Why weren't the inspection, maintenance, and repair logs included in the backup materials? Not very transparent. The one thing I do get, our seniors need the senior center, just like Northport citizens need the food pantry. Sheila Johnson. As a longtime resident, I am deeply concerned by the pattern of decisions made by this body that I believe erode the quality of life we cherish in Northport. First, the YMCA pool was lost. Then the Al Gall Center and pre-kindergarten building were demolished. Most recently, the planned destruction of the Art Center. Now with reports swirling, it appears the senior center is in your sights as the next target. These aren't just buildings, they are vital community gathering spaces that our families and seniors rely on. Just a few months ago, 2 commissioners proposed repurposing the Mullen Center. This would strip our community of a facility that provides much-needed space for summer camp, events, programs, and family activities. At every turn, it seems this commission has prioritized development over people. For the older members of our community, the senior center is a place for social activity, resources, and connection. The city has a responsibility to provide for the interconnected needs of our older residents, same as the youth and families at the community centers. Commissioners have consistently targeted these community spaces, and for what? We have to ask who is truly benefiting from this series of demolitions. The logical conclusion is that there is a developer wanting to acquire the land these facilities occupy. This will not improve Northport. It will make way for more commercialization. We've already experienced the rezoning that has disrupted our residential areas. This constant assault on the services and institutions that make Northport special is disturbing. You have a duty to serve all the residents, not just those who promise profit. I urge you to stop this cycle of deconstruction, reverse course, prioritize our community's needs, and preserve the quality of life that we, the residents, value most. You should all be ashamed of this blatant disregard for the well-being of the people you were elected to represent. Chris Sate. I would like to raise a concern regarding the potential involvement of Commissioner Langdon in internal disputes between the Awaken Outreach Center and the Northport Senior Center. I personally observed Commissioner Langdon in multiple closed-door private conversations with Larry Grant, the acting director of Awaken Outreach Center. It is my understanding that Larry Grant is seeking control of the building currently occupied by the Senior Center. Additionally, I've learned that Mr. Grant has filed charges against the president of the senior center, and this matter was discussed at the last commission meeting. Given these circumstances, I respectfully ask for clarification on the following. What is Commissioner Langdon's role, if any, in these internal disputes? Was there any official or unofficial influence exerted by the commissioner regarding the building or the actions taken against the senior center leadership? How does the commission ensure impartiality and prevent conflicts of interest in matters involving city-owned facilities and local organizations? Transparency and accountability are essential for maintaining public trust. I appreciate the commission's attention to these questions. In person, I have Larry Grant and Pastor Z.
Larry Grant, Director, Awaken Outreach Center. First, I want to thank all the commissioners, city managers, city staff, and all the different city departments for everything they do for the city and that they've done to help Awaken Outreach Center over the years. Most of you have been out to volunteer, to serve all of our neighbors, your citizens, and it was wonderful, and you're always there to help any other needs that we have, whether it's food drives or, if things need to be fixed at the building or, anything that we need from Janet at Social Services. We work with them, the police, fire, and I just really appreciate it, and I hope that everybody can see what you all do for our community. And just a quick thing about, there is no talk about us buying the building, taking over the building, or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. And we really appreciate all that you do because it's allowed us to serve our community. In 2024, we were able to serve 3 million pounds of food from our food pantry to 156,000 people throughout the year. And that's much in part due to our relationship and partnership with the city. There's another 7,000 through many other outreaches that many of you have been a part of, whether it's our Day for Hope Back to School event, Thanksgiving outreach, our Hope for Christmas event, and again, in partnership with many of the city departments. And we are greatly appreciative of all that. So thank you very much, and we are forever grateful for whatever is available that we can do to continue partnering.
Thank you, sir.
Brian Sadravi, I'm the lead pastor at Awaken Church. We have been a part of this city for almost 13 years. We'll be 13 in January. The very first thing that we ever did as a church in the city of Northport was actually partner with our fire department for their Remember the Fallen 5K. It is the heart of our church to pour love on the city, and we do that without asking actually anything in return. We've always absolutely loved the partnership that you have provided as a city. And so to each of the commissioners, thank you for allowing us to partner with you. City Manager Fletcher, thank you for working with us. I want to thank the staff. The staff has been tremendous over the years. And I have a little bit of an unpopular thought, but I just think it should be voiced. I don't see the city as being obligated to help Awaken in the way that it's been referred to. I appreciate it with all of my heart, but we're a church, and this is not a religious entity. The city is not a religious entity. To speak to Commissioner Duvall's thoughts, we are actually open 5 days a week, and we service 3,700 residents each week with food and other activities. We don't have church services at the Outreach Center. We literally only use that facility to give things to the community. That is done through fundraising efforts, that's done through partnerships with other nonprofits. We service Mothers Helping Mothers, so once a month there is a trailer that comes in and provides clothing and other supplies for moms and children, infants, etc. We partner with Jesus Loves You Ministries. They bring a shower trailer in once a month, and we do what we call a community day. And we're primarily, we focus our attentions that day on helping our homeless population. We partnered with the HOT team here in Northport. So most of our services literally are impacting the city of Northport, the residents of the city of Northport. And we want to continue to do that. And so whether that's in this building or some other way that we can do that, our heart is to partner. But one last thought, and again, understanding that the city is not a religious entity, James 1:27 says that real religion, pure religion, undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to visit the orphan and the widows in their afflictions and to keep oneself unstained by the world. And I would just encourage that perhaps what would be most helpful to our senior center and senior citizens would be if the city would consider absorbing them and putting them as a part of the Parks and Recreation Department. That instead of them having to come up with their $20 per person to sustain themselves throughout the year, perhaps the city would be better served to actually begin to provide real services for the senior citizens of our great community. That's my thought. But listen, again, just thank you so much for all of your support. We will continue to serve the city of Northport no matter what happens. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Langdon, I believe you're going to
be the sacrificial lamb here, just to sort of keep it. Anyway, 3 potential consensus. First, that we make a commitment today that the staff and commission will work aggressively on a solution that retains the services that the occupants of this building currently provide to the community within the community.
Sounds like a good consensus to me. Commissioner Petro.
I'm in agreement.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Good.
That wasn't easy.
Number 2, engage to direct staff to engage to instruct city manager to work with staff to engage with the current occupants of the building to identify minimum space requirements and to identify what they might be able to provide to help craft a solution, whether that's money or volunteer or whatever. I don't want to define that, but that we engage with the occupants to contribute to a solution.
Mr. Petro.
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'd be a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then third, for me, that we instruct city manager to work with staff to also identify the costs of tearing down the building and replacing the current structure in the most cost-effective way, and also document costs of providing trailers, should they be needed by the occupants, to continue to provide services.
Yeah, I mean, it gives a pretty general direction. Mr. Petro, if you're a yes.
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah.
Mayor's a yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
That's it.
I'll ask city manager, is there any other direction you guys need? Anything else you want us to address regarding this matter at this time, or?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think we're good.
Yeah, okay. Gives everybody a pretty good direction as to where we're going. Folks, really appreciate you all coming out here today and spending your morning to listen to us. Find out we aren't always the big bad wolf that everybody thinks we are. We actually are part of the community too, and we do value you guys. And we're gonna do everything we can to make this make sense and work it through. So we appreciate it. All right. You want to take a quick 10 again?
be great. I can refill my coffee cup.
Yeah. Just stretch before we go into the other items.
Break?
Yeah, let's take a
10 minutes?
10 minutes. session here. Let's, now we'll swing into 25-2847. This is the presentation regarding funding for Emergency Operations Center project. City Manager, your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an Emergency Operations Center funding update, and there's a presentation to be presented by Ms. Stacy Alicio, our Emergency Manager. Thank you.
Stacy, thanks for your patience.
Oh, you know what? It's a very important conversation to be had, so it's glad to switch spots. If we could just get the presentation up on the screens. I'm going to start just with a brief overview of what emergency management is, just so everyone's aware. I had the opportunity to meet one-on-one last year with Commissioner Langdon, Vice Mayor Stokes, and our Vice Mayor Emmerich and Mayor Stokes, but I haven't gotten really to speak much with Commissioner Duvall or Commissioner Petro. So what we do in emergency management, we constantly working within 4 phases. So we have preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. Currently, we are preparing for any disaster that might happen with planning, training, exercises. We're working on mitigation. We're part of the local mitigation strategy where we look for funding for mitigation projects, such as hardening our facilities, things like that. And then we are also in recovery for Hurricane Ian still, so working through that. So the phases are constantly overlapping, so we're not just the hurricane people. We are doing work constantly year-round, and it is a lot of work. So this Emergency Operations Center, blue skies, that's the terminology we use for a beautiful day like today. We aren't currently responding to any disasters, so we would be using the Emergency Operations Center as office space for emergency management, and now we're also going to be housing some building officials in there as well, and we'll get into the reasoning for that later on. Meeting space as well, so city departments, we are pretty short on conference room space, so city departments will be able to reserve those conference rooms to be able to use whenever they needed to. We can use training and exercise space. We'll have a big situation room with monitors so we can have larger trainings and exercises. The main goal we would like to do is to bring more of our emergency management partners here to do training and exercise here within the city instead of us going out to them all the time. It's a backup data center for IT. It is going to provide a situation room that's operational 24/7. As of right now, it takes IT, when we schedule IT to set up the EOC, it takes a couple of hours. If something were to happen, an emergency were to happen off hours, let's say on the weekend in the middle of the night, we have to call IT in to then come set up. So it's going to be a delayed response in that respect. And then a continuity of operations location for Station 81 in communication. So if something were to happen, it could be a place for them to go and use the EOC to maintain their day-to-day operations. During a disaster, it is a hardened facility with backup generator, backup water, backup communication. So it's a space for us to be able to safely work and respond during an emergency, especially during a hurricane. It provides a situation room with technology that will allow us to maintain situational awareness. We are 104 square miles of a city. The Emergency Operations Center is that hub for collecting information about what's happening throughout the entire city and put that together in a big picture to go back out to people in the field. So it allows us to create priorities, to understand where our resources are most needed, and coordinate the response that way. It's going to be an emergency call center, a joint information center, so that's going to be used by communications to allow us to get information out to the public, as well as for the public to call us and let us know what their concerns, what they're seeing out on the streets, any rumors that they're hearing, so it will allow a two-way conversation between us and the public. Amateur radio, ham radio room is in there as well. We have space for GIS and IT to be able to work to keep everything operational, as well as to produce maps, keep our dashboards up to date, to process all of the data coming into the Emergency Operations Center. And then we're going to coordinate logistics, which is the big one. That's the resource requests that we send out to the county, to the state, to make sure that the resources we need come in, that we're tracking them, that those resources are then returned to where they need to go. We went over this at the last workshop when we talked about funding. Nothing's changed here. We had that almost $1.7 million deficit to break ground. And then if we add in the $900,000 for FF&E to make the building whole, it's about $2.6 million. And this is that not to exceed amount based on the GMP. So a big multi-department effort here. We were able to come up with a solution to break ground, to come up with that about $1.7 million. That's why we're going to be housing building officials now in the EOC day-to-day. That will allow us to use the building fund balance. So it solves a problem for the EOC as well as a problem for development services. They're looking for a space for their building inspectors. We have the available space. So it allows us to then create that partnership and use some of that building fund funding as well. And then there was some surtax funds that was available of $340,740 that we'll be using. This provides permanent space for the building inspectors, and the funding is available now. So we won't need to borrow money from a future project, things like that. The funding we can use now, and we won't have to pay it back to the building fund because we're providing permanent space. This will allow construction to begin on schedule, and we will still be seeking $900,000 for FF&E next fiscal year, but this does allow us to break ground, start the Emergency Operations Center project, prevent any delays and any further inflation as cost escalation through the delay, and that would be caused by the delay in the project. And then we had spoken earlier about tax collector co-location. So the functionality of the tax collector building really wouldn't meet the needs of the Emergency Operations Center. Deputy City Manager Yarbrough had spoken with the tax collector about this. It would need to be hardened to a Category 4 storm. It wouldn't have the spaces needed, the parking space needed, the wraparound services needed for an EOC. However, the tax collector would select to explore other options to partner with the city to potentially provide space for some other use other than an emergency operations center. So does anybody have any questions?
All right. Commissioners? Commissioner Duval.
Thank you, Mayor. My first question is, I got confused on the blue sky and the gray skies. We're not talking about two separate buildings, are we?
No.
Okay.
Same building.
So in other words, this building is going to be hardened. Okay. It'll be available for whatever our needs are.
Yes.
And secondly, thanks for your time, your presentation. I just had a thought that since the tax collector still has wants, so to speak, and there is that FFE cost, maybe we could kind of plan to include part of the deal with the tax collector into taking care of maybe that part of the funding.
I'm up for any suggestions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question about the deficits that you said in project cost and benefits. There's a total project, the deficit of 2.5 million, and if it's with permitting, design, and tech, it's 1.6 million. Have you reached out to any state organizations, like grants or any of that?
Yes, so I've actually spoken to Senator Gruters twice about this, so it's in the top of his mind. We are going to be attempting to get appropriations this upcoming year for this through the governor's office. Those aren't guaranteed funds, but that is something that we've been pursuing.
How much did they say, how much would it be?
It's up to their discretion. So we asked for the total amount, so the plan is to ask for the whole 2.5 that we were short. Hoping we'll at least get the 900,000 that we're short for the FF&E. So you ask for the maximum, and then usually they dwindle it down. So at least that way, hopefully we'll get the minimum that we're required.
Any level of federal agencies have you considered to?
So the federal grants would actually increase the cost of the building more than what we would get, because we'd have to then harden it to a Category 5. We'd have to go through Davis-Bacon, so we'd have to go through all sort of different regulations. It would delay the project, and the cost of hardening the structure, we looked into that, would cost more than any federal funding would give us. Does that make sense?
Yes, but level 5 is 11.4 is sufficient for.
Yeah, so the conversations that we had, because we're inland enough, usually when those strong hurricanes come through, it degrades a little bit before it makes its way to Northport.
What would
So
be the
we're comfortable with the
difference
Category 4.
between level 4 and 5?
So a Category 5 is 157 mile per hour sustained winds, so we'd be built up to 156 mile per hour sustained. And Hurricane Ian was below that significantly. So.
Financially speaking, what?
Oh, financially speaking, that might be a question for our project manager. Perfect timing. Yes.
Hello, Kim Humphrey, Public Works again. Because the building wasn't designed as a level 5, it's hard to say what the difference when we bid it would have been between a 4 and a 5. But I can share Sarasota County's EOC as a level 5, and when you break down the square footage, I would say ours would be probably another 2 million if we were to pursue the higher wind rating. But it wasn't required for this area.
And any, I guess my question back to you would be, any level from the county willingness to participate in financial?
I did reach out to EM Chief Tet Fumine, and they said that they do not have any financial support they could give us right now, but they will be endorsing us and talking to state legislation as well about the need for them to give us appropriations. So we have their support that way.
And I anticipated that answer. But the reason I'm asking is because when the county level is addressing this need on the state level, it has much more weight to get something. So are they willing to do it? Maybe.
Yes, so we have in February Emergency Management Day at the Capitol, and that's when all the emergency managers go up and speak to our legislature. And when they go up there, they're going to speak for us and the importance of them providing funding for the EOC.
So I just wanted to emphasize that because Northport is the biggest area for the county, so they should be very interested in helping us and presenting us and lobbying on our behalf.
Yep.
After all, we do serve the county.
We do, yes, and they agree, and they're supporting us in any way that they can.
Thank you for all you do.
You're welcome. Happy to do it.
Commissioner Langdon.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have some questions. We had been looking at the tax collector's need for space and adding the EOC on to it. What if we flipped that? Could we modify the EOC plans to incorporate the tax folks? Again, I'm working money issues. We know they have budget. I know we have a design. I understand all of that. But we have our funding we're at a crisis in this city in terms of needing infrastructure and needing space and not having the money for it. So all I'm working is how can we leverage some of these projects so if there's any overlap or any opportunity to combine things a little bit, I think we should explore them. Is the plan still to build on city center property?
Yeah, right next to Fire Station 81.
I see Deputy City Manager coming down, so I'm sure he has something pithy to say.
Based on Fire Chief Titus and my interaction with Mr. Moran, the way he's going to build is more or less through a P3, and it's going to be very, very fast. I don't think it will work out, that kind of partnership where we kind of modify our existing design for the EOC. I don't think the way he's going to build that will work.
Okay, thank you for that.
But it was it was outside of the box. Definitely.
Here's where my brain is going, and you're not going to like this at all. I don't like it. But I think if folks are going to get the space that they absolutely need, the thought process where each need has its own building, I don't see those days happening in this city. I mean, we have got to face facts that we don't have sufficient money. I mean, we could put all of our money into maintaining current buildings and probably not have enough for that. So I don't have any answers, but we have a police headquarters that we're unable to fund. We know fire and rescue is going to need another building in the next, was it 2 or 3 years? I'm trying to remember Chief's presentation. And we have an EOC that wants its own building. How are we going to get those things done? They're also critically important for us to be able to maintain a safe community and to continue to provide a safe community in a rapidly growing environment. We've got to get really creative, folks, on how we get it done, or no one's getting nothing. I mean, that's where we're at. Let's just face it.
I thought we were a little creative when we partnered with Development Services to put building inspectors in the building.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. That's really all I have.
All right, well, moving in the same vein, which nobody's gonna like to hear, but well, some people will wanna hear it. I mean, it's gonna be $13 million, just like the police want their headquarters. And after 2 rough hurricanes, we decided we gotta have an emergency operations facility. Even though the county has one, even though we don't get as much support maybe from the county as we would hope, or maybe they have no obligation to provide it despite the taxes we pay. The reality is this is $13 million. And if you look at that one slide where it said, there'll be space for, meeting rooms and for training sessions with other outside the city entities. I mean, I know that was all an attempt to partner and utilize and this and that, but 13 million, if we didn't do any of that, could we do it for 7? Could we turn around and maybe not build next to the fire station, but combine this now with a totally different approach to police? We're here, we've already committed, this is a great project, this is gonna give us a state-of-the-art emergency operations center, and certainly I don't want to argue the fact that there isn't a need and that this need doesn't benefit our citizens in crisis necessarily, but $13 million for when we're going to have storms. If this facility can be enlarged, again, a bigger picture item like Commissioner Langdon said, where there's some ability to partner our departments. I mean, we don't have anywhere near the money to do all the projects that are out there. And if we don't, and the perception is, well, here's another government building. Is the fact that we perform better as a government during an emergency, it might have a direct impact on whether someone lives or dies, whether we're able to rescue someone or not or get them help. I appreciate that. But it is also creating a government building that is going to be maintained, operated, taken care of, going to have other things in it, and it's $13 million of ultimately tax money. And I just question whether, even though we've gone all this way and we are this close, whether or not, in light of the fact that we have no clue how we're going to help our police department out, maybe we need to rethink. This project was going to be part of a police headquarters, got booted because the thought of $135 million was gagging, so it was broken apart, and now we can't fund even $122 million police headquarters, nor do I see us funding $122 million police headquarters. Not that that's the conversation today, but we need to, as Commissioner Langdon said, start figuring out how everybody can sacrifice some. Because if you don't think the state's going to take a bite out of our general fund property tax revenue next year, you are delusional. And when that happens, that is going to put us in a position of having to really get creative and make every dollar worth $2. And to make a commitment at this point to do this, I have some concern. Not that I don't support conceptually this plan or the value that an EOC brings. I'm just questioning whether this is the highest and best use of our tax revenues. And it's surtax and it's building tax and building fund money, which could be directed to help other projects that could be invaluable. I mean, after all, we just finished having a conversation about what we could do to help our senior citizens who are so an integral part of our community, and an awakened food pantry that feeds tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there during the course of the year. How much more help to our direct community citizens and residents would the money benefit if we used it there, as opposed to creating a government building to respond in a hurricane or a disaster? Maybe the state and the county ought to step up. Maybe someone else ought to step up other than our taxpayers over and over and over and over and over again. I'm just saying, and this is the opportunity to bring it up. I don't know how anybody thinks about it, but that's my 2 cents. Commissioner Petro?
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to ask, have you differentiated the cost analysis as far as doing P3 and the other route? How much is the difference in financial impact would it be?
The P3 conversation was related to what the tax collector was doing, not the city. So that wasn't our project.
Oh, okay.
That was the tax collector's project pathway, not ours.
And also, when you mentioned parking lot, that the parking lot would not be sufficient.
For like the tax collector building and our, is it? Yeah, so after a disaster, both our, the EOC parking lot would be with first responders and resources, and then sharing that with a public-facing building as busy as the tax collector gets after a disaster. It was just one logistical issue that we would run into, of many.
Is there a requirement by the state that the parking lot should be so close to the proximity of the building, or could it be, because we have a lot of parking spots?
Yeah, and that will definitely be utilized as well. But there, like I said, there are several other reasons why, unfortunately, the partnership with the tax collector's office wouldn't work. Parking was just one. But yeah, we will definitely, during a disaster, this whole area is filled with tents and aid and parking and all sorts of stuff. We'd kind of take over this whole area.
And with the deficit amount, what would be your recommendation, or where would you get the money?
So we found the money. We are going to partner with Development Services to provide space with for the building inspectors. That would allow us to use some of the building fund. And then there was some surtax fund balance that we were going to utilize to cover the other $340,000.
I'm referring to the presentation when there's a line of deficit.
Yes, and the solution to the deficit was the building fund and the surtax dollars. That left us with still $900,000 of FF&E that we're going to try to get appropriations from the governor's office for.
Thank you.
City Manager?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification or add-on, I guess. Just to piggyback on Commissioner Petro's thought there, the idea was to bring you a solution for that deficit, which is sort of what she just related to when we talked about getting creative. So it was funded. And back to the mayor's point, yes, this is a project that if the decision is to change the direction now, today would be the day to say, stop going in that direction, because we've talked about this project probably like a year and a half or so, but things have changed. Our money picture has been presented to be more clearly, and like what previously said, we have financial challenges everywhere. But this one was already in our budget. We solved for the gap, and there's been about several $100,000 already invested in this in design work and whatnot. So if we're gonna stop, we need to sort of get that today, and that would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If I may also clarify too, that we're subject to disasters other than hurricanes, right? And as I mentioned before, it takes us hours to set up the current EOC in room 244. So if we were to have something happen last minute, like mass casualty incident, God forbid, or some sort of flash flooding, it's going to take a long time for us to be able to ramp everything up, especially if it were to happen in the middle of the night. We have to call IT down to set everything. So it is a, you want to talk about public safety. We do more than hurricanes. We're statutorily obligated to provide specific trainings year-round so that, the space will be utilized year-round, and it's a needed space, for sure.
Mr. Langdon?
Just a couple of comments. One, addressing the mayor's comments. I don't believe the city should be in the business of building buildings for our nonprofits. As much as I love them, as much as I want all of them to stay within the city, we do a lot to provide space at incredibly reduced rates of market value. That's appropriate in my mind, but to build a building specifically for nonprofits, I would have a hard time supporting that. And similarly, if we did make any potential adjustments to the EOC plans, then those adjustments should directly support projects of public safety, would be my thought process. Not that we're there. And I have to say, I hate having this conversation, but how do we as a commission address the incredible needs just of public safety? Forget our buildings falling down and infrastructure aging. How do we maintain public safety? I don't know how we do it. We need more fire rescue locations. We need a police building. How do we do it?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit rhetorical because there really isn't an answer for it, but we have to start somewhere. And I guess to proceed with building an EOC, I would just have to better understand the benefits to the community. I mean, there's no question about disaster relief. I mean, there's just no question. And I only to clearly recall the difficulty we had addressing the aftermath of Ian. I mean, I get it. But I really need some help.
So currently, just to talk about what we're currently working with out of 244, we don't have the space to bring in all of our outside partners. So our vision is with the new EOC with more space, we can bring in United Way to give them a seat at our table. We can bring in Awaken Church to give them a seat at our table and bring them in. Our community emergency response teams, they're always looking for places to train. We don't have a big enough space that's available all the time because, our parks buildings are always often being used for something else. So this would allow us to have our community emergency response teams come in and do their training here. They currently go to Charlotte County for that. They shouldn't have to do that. They should be able to do that here with us. So those are just a couple examples, but I'm happy to provide you.
And just one I suspect Deputy
Patiently waiting.
Hurley has something to say. But I would just have a related question. As we build our capacity here, we still have to integrate with the county, correct? We would still have to send a person. I think that's the extent of it, correct?
Yes, yep. And that's the best practice, to send a liaison up.
Nick Hurley, Deputy Fire Chief. To give you a little more insight and to kind of turn back the pages a little bit, from 2020 to 21, all the way until now, we have been hammered by storms. So through those storms, living through this building and living through this building being uninhabitable during Ian, I can attest to this was what really prompted
the fire from commission at that time that we need to do better when it comes to emergency management and the facilities for emergency management in order to prepare the city for the future. That said, as we move this project along, we have taken a lot of different considerations in, and I say we because at the time EM was underneath fire and we've been good partners through this process. So it is absolutely a need. It is a very critical need. When you think of emergency management, it is not just gray skies, it is also blue sky events. At any point in time, something could happen to where Stacy and her team has to assemble a lot of people to then mitigate a disaster of large scale within the city. They're also very much helpful throughout small events as well. So whether it be a brush fire or something to do with a law enforcement issue. So we are a growing city. We recognize that there are some needs as we transition from small city to medium city to big city. And this is certainly one of the most critical tasks that we can accomplish is to make sure we can mitigate large disasters. We can't do it from this building. We've tried.
That was clear after Ian.
It was abundantly clear, yes. And we had to move into a separate building and then move back into this building.
Right.
And yes, I lived through that. So, and so did many others that work for the city. So it is a critical need. It is something that is very much on the front of mind of all of the responders in the city. But yes, it is something that we direly need in order to make sure what we do first is provide for public safety.
If I may, just one other quick thing. What would really, really help me is more information and maybe a little more planning and thought given to, in the blue sky scenario, how do we make this EOC serve the community better? And I'm just brainstorming. The chamber is always looking for space to run their lunch and learns. I mean, so it's an expensive facility. There'll be a lot of space.
Yes.
How do we ensure that the community can make best use of it in blue sky situations? That would really help me with this proposal.
Yes, and we have so many great ideas that I'm more than willing to go through the city manager to provide for you, for sure.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, the city manager stated earlier that so far we spent about 200,000. Is that about it, what we've spent on this project so far, or how much have we spent to this date on this project?
It's like 600,000.
We can go back and double check. It'd probably take a matter of minutes, but I think it's upwards of 300,000 and maybe 400,000 for the design portion of where we're at right now.
Okay, so let's say 400,000-ish.
566,674.
His number better, okay. 500,000. Okay, now this 500,000, does this pay for the completed design? Is that everything all done and designed and ready to go for?
Shovel ready?
So the project at this point is fully designed. We're in for permitting. We've addressed the majority of permitting comments and it's been bid. This is the GMP number that we bring to you in the presentation.
Okay, and my other question was, listening to these conversations, I just want to make sure that everything's out in the open. Let's say the project stalls because they want to do funding with other things. What's the shelf life on that design? If we were to say, no, we don't want to do it right now, do we have to go back and redesign it in the future, or does it have like a 3-5 year lifespan on design?
I would have to take a look and see when the next Florida Building Code update is due for implementation. At a minimum, we would have to go back and adjust any references to the previous Florida Building Code, which, it depends on what they change and when they change it.
But then, okay, so let me ask this question. If something changes, can those designs just be upgraded, or do they have to go back to square one and be redesigned and another 500,000-ish?
No, I mean, they would have to be updated. Honestly, it depends on what updates they implement in the Florida Building Code. If they change the wind loads, that could have a large effect to our structural drawings. Sometimes they just change how you calculate a wind load, and it can have some effect.
Right, so it would be still a workable document.
Sure,
down the
yes,
road.
absolutely.
All right, that's all I had, Mayor.
Okay. I mean, appreciating the need for the EOC and the fact that we need a dedicated facility, and I see that, and I don't negate that. You know, I'm looking at how do we, you know, kill more birds with one stone, so to speak. You know, I mean, breaking ground on a separate standalone building next to the fire station here. Okay, there's that. We negate the tax collector thing because it doesn't make sense. We own a beautiful property that we're gonna build a beautiful police headquarters on, for which we have no money to do so. We have a commitment to build a government building in Welland Park. Maybe that would make a great EOC building, along with the addition of city services, building services and other things which might have been envisioned for that building. Is that a concept where maybe then we can leverage our development partners to pay for it and reimburse them over time, since we can't borrow money on our own? I'm trying to think in my mind. We've got $13 million that we're ready to pull a trigger on. We've got this money. It is surtax money, which was on the surtax list when it was adopted in 22. We've got some building fund money. Both those buckets can lend themselves certainly to other high priority projects we have in the city. Is there a way to be creative enough to find a way to do this? If we can't build a police headquarters building, to introduce the subject a little, because it is sort of, it goes hand in hand, and where in the world, if we couldn't this year, are we going to next year, the year after that, find $100+ million? Maybe we need to decide, all right, we need to have, just like we have different fire stations, we have let's create a city safety facility. Okay, let's have a section of the policing go there. I know it's not optimum, I know it's not centralized, but it's part of a sacrifice that we're gonna have to make, because after all, what's the police department gonna do when a big chunk of their money disappears next year or the year after, and they don't have it? I mean, we have to deal with the realities of we only have limited resources. So I'm thinking, and I don't have all the answers, like Commissioner Langdon says, but maybe it's worth starting to think about some of this stuff. Is there a way to partner up our departments, to share resources, share space, and utilize the leverage we have with partners out there? Because this is $13 million that's going bye-bye. And once it's spent, it's spent. And yes, will that building have value? Sure it will. But is there a better way to get to the end game, which is give us a safety facility that we need, but at the same time better utilize our citizens' tax dollars or our available tax revenues? I don't know. I'm struggling with this because the need's there, but I feel like, you know, I mean, why would Welland Park make a horrible location? And is it even realistic that we could put an EOC there instead of that government building? Do we really need more bureaucracy, another government building? Or could that be our EOC? And could we, like you're trying to partner or utilize some of your extra available space for, you know, the development services, could we not do it there?
I think it depends on the evacuation level. In Welland Park, I think most of that is C and below. All of level C was evacuated during Milton. So we would like to keep the EOC out of an area that would potentially be evacuated.
Welland Park?
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, again, a lot of outside of the box thinking, while putting an additional EOC on top of that facility might make sense. You're contractually obligated to build a kind of a general services building. The vision was to give them kind of centralized access to building,
basic buildings,
planning, all that kind of stuff. Contractually, I don't think you're going to be able to walk away from any of those, but it doesn't mean that, you know, you could co-locate an EOC there. I will say this,
during Ian, it was important with all so we had the National Guard here that were located here. We had Tampa Bay Police were here, and there were synergies that were had by having the EOC function here in the middle of all that. That's one thing you would be sacrificing.
Not necessarily, since it's going to be an enormously magnificent property in the new Welland Park High School that'll be available soon. That make for a great staging area if the county wants to actually help us a little.
Maybe. I don't, but as far as downtown Welland Park, I don't think they would like seeing the Humvees and all that kind of stuff co-located with if the EOC was there. But you're right, there are other things out there, out in Welland Park that could be explored.
It's just, it's just food for thought when you think about how resourceful we're going to have to be. So I'm not negating the need. I'm not negating the plan that's been put together. I'm just saying we're right on the precipice, like the city manager said. If we move forward, this is going to happen. That money is going to get spent. This building is going to get built. And later we may say, oops, we could have done this differently. And I'm asking the question, that's all. Now it seems to be the right time to kick this all around. I mean, we have not solved the problem of our PD. And despite how much I support, let's face it, engineering professionals, if you ask the experts, the consultants, what's the optimum? Here, analyze our need, tell us what we need to do, here's the general parameter of the money we have available, and they come up with these plans, and they are wonderful. I mean, the PD building is magnificent. The EOC is magnificent. And in a perfect world with plenty of available money, no problem. But this isn't the world we live in anymore. We are not seeing reality. Reality is we're not going to have the money for any of this stuff. And if we spend this kind of money now, only to next year find 10, 15, 20% of our general fund revenue vaporize, what in the hell are we going to do? How are we going to keep up with our policing needs? Maybe we should leverage that. Even if you took a couple of million to throw it to somewhere else, you still got 10 million you could potentially put towards developing something on the site we bought for our PDA quarters. And maybe we need to think about a district policing, a precinct mentality. I don't know, but it's after the direction we've gone for the last year, we haven't come up with the solutions. We're not going to find them easily. So we really, I hate to say that the EOC now becomes like a ball to bounce around in this process, but I don't know any other time to talk about it, and if we don't and we move forward after today, then it's not going to be on the table. And so, again, I'm struggling with it, but Commissioner Langdon?
Yeah, just another thought. Our police headquarters proposal had 40-year shelf space. Why not put the EOC in that shelf space and leverage the budget? So if police could come up with not the ideal, it would be sacrificing some things. And I'm just throwing out numbers just to throw them out. But if our police could come up with a $70 or $80 million plan, and part of that is an EOC, bringing it down $13 million, I'm starting to feel a lot better about getting things done. Merge those plans. I mean, it's not ideal, but we have to get out of ideal. I am really beginning to understand why previous commissions just simply didn't spend money maintaining our current buildings. There was no money. That's why. And so we're living with that today. And this commission, I've been so proud of this commission and our current staff that we've really figured out how to get some big projects moving. again, we're gonna have to get really, really creative. And the only thing I can guarantee you is no one is gonna get everything they want. But we have to figure out, how do we take care of our existing needs? And I can hear previous commissions saying, well, that's what we did with the current police headquarters, and that's why today we're so grossly out of space, because we sort of designed it for the current need. I totally understand now why they did that. So we have to figure it out.
Why couldn't we take that property we bought for our police headquarters and build a fire station, a police building
Something.
that would house various departments or areas of policing, and find a way to do it? I mean, there's issues and there's consolidations and there's duplication. Hey, this is all we've got to work with. We've got a piece of property we bought that's sitting there. It has the space capacity to hold an EOC and a fire station and a police headquarters if it's designed and put together properly. I don't see why we can't use that property and find a way. Nobody gets, like Commissioner Langdon says, the total of what they want. Certainly the police don't. But you can't tell me that there can't be, whether it's just the senior staff of the policing and certain departments within the police department that lend itself to being separate, and find a way to do it. Because to me, that's the way of the future. And the fact that the fire rescue would be part of it, well, their funds can only be used for certain things, and I get that, but it would still help defray part of the cost of these facilities, their portion. And the EOC has money it's already generated for the EOC project. It reduces the amount of pressure on PD. It doesn't give them a full police headquarters, but it's part of a larger conversation to figure out whether it's even feasible. And to say it's not optimum or it's not the best plan, we know that. We can't give this city the best plans because we don't have anywhere near the money, and all we will do is kick the can down the road on these things until they cost 10 times what they cost. So how are we going to, living in a state that is going the direction to pinch pennies everywhere, there is no doubt we're all going to have serious financial impact over this next year or two. We're going to be dealing with less money. How do we not at least investigate doing some of these consolidations and find a way to do it? Not give all the reasons why we can't do it, or why it hurts us, or why it doesn't provide for this, that, or the other. But it's like, if you don't get any of this, zero, none of it. You don't get the EOC, you don't get police headquarters, you get nothing unless you figure out a way to do it together on one property. Figure it out, because that's what our taxpayers are telling us. That's what the citizens are saying. Where are you going to get this money? You're not going to get it from us anymore, because we'll throw you out of office and replace you with people who will bury their heads and go back 20 years. That is not the answer for this city. The answer is to stop wanting everything we want and to figure out the barest bones needs we need to provide safety for our citizens. That's simple. That's simple. Safety. I don't care about meeting rooms and collaborations and training. You know what? The citizens don't care about that. They care about save my ass in the middle of a hurricane, okay, get out here and solve my problems. They see this is just more government expansion, and that's what it is, okay? So I say, let's give you what you want, but find a way to partner it more than just a little space for development services.
If I may. So I think there might be a little bit of confusion. So the big space, the situation room, is where we'll have the monitors and be able to coordinate and have our maps and gather all the information. During Blue Skies, that is where we could use that room every day for trainings, meetings. We're part of the long-term recovery committee. So we could host meetings with the long-term recovery group that provides money to people who are recovering from Hurricane Ian, things like that. So it's not like we're building a building with all these separate training rooms. It's just this room already exists, and day to day it will be used often for emergency management purposes, for our community partners, for our residents as well, because we could also host our hurricane seminars in the Emergency Operations Center. We could host our community emergency response teams. We could hold first aid trainings. There's all sorts of things that we could utilize that space for that would benefit the community as well.
And I just question whether not so much taking away from the plan you have necessarily, but just locating it in the right spot with the right, with the right neighbors on a campus. And we have a property to do that. I'm just questioning whether there isn't some better master plan to all this and solve and skin more cats here. I don't know the answer to that. I just know this is an awful lot of money to pull the trigger on. And while I don't doubt the need, there's an awful lot of need to go around. So I'm looking for creative approaches. That's all. CM?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few comments. The reason why, when we looked at originally the EOC and the police station together and they were separated, was due to security concerns that were sort of PD security concerns are a little higher and tighter than EOC would be, so they were separated for that reason. The points you make are excellent, of course, because we know that because we have $500 million that we're trying to solve for in unfunded CIP, which is still a conversation that we want to have. The reason why the information was brought to you today was the continuation of a project that was already approved prior, and that approval spans multiple years, multiple boards, multiple managers. So we're executing on what we asked for, but times change, things have changed. We know that we're not going to be able to borrow it at the lowest amount possible because of we don't have that ability. We know that the climate of the city and the county and the country is not going to allow for taxes to be raised to pay for it either. So we're looking at this small window, and the creativity that you bring to the table is very valid. If we need to go back and sort of revisit this, even though, as Vice Mayor Emmerich has said, the couple of $100,000, several $100,000 that we spent on design for this one. The same thing is with the police headquarters. We didn't want to lose that money that we invested because we acted on the consultant's recommendation at that time, which was in the best interest of how do we make it ideal, as you have said today. But we might need to go back and revisit that and see if there is a public safety complex that makes sense out there. If there is a different model that can get us to the next 20 to 30 years as opposed to a longer range vision. Happy to go back and do that. I know Commissioner Langdon, Ms. Silicio has said she's happy to come back and give you more information on the benefits of, what makes it work or why it works. And maybe we need to do that for every project that we have, just to make sure that we're thinking about today's issues and challenges versus whenever the project began to be discussed and how it evolved over to today.
Yeah, because would we really lose the design ability if we just moved it to a different location? I mean, if we didn't build it next to the fire station and we built it out on another property, wherever that might be, would we really lose? Would the design cost change?
I think it depends on the size of the property, but doesn't.
Assuming the property was sufficient to handle it, obviously.
So we could reuse floor plans, assuming we're not now merging other departments into the EOC and trying to figure out how they work together, but you would have to restart site design entirely. Yeah.
Okay.
But that is what drew the EOC to this location. Is co-located with police headquarters, city hall, a fire station, an activity or the Mullen Center area for staging. It became a good option for where to put the centralized emergency operations center for really all of public safety during those events. So, and when we go back to talking about, public safety and complexes, fire stations are geographically located based on our ability to get somewhere within a prescribed amount of time. So defining a fire station to go in that location, I know we completed a concurrency study with the developer that's in that area, and that's not the best location for a fire station. So there's a lot of other factors that do come into a lot of the great ideas. And keep in mind, we've batted these around now for years, right? Like there was a talk at one time of where do we put the emergency operations center? All of those discussions landed at where it's planned to go. So it has been around. We've discussed it. It's obviously been on the front side of commission now, I think, for 2 budget cycles. So what the EM has done in collaboration with finance and the building department is basically tried to package that in a shovel-ready project that we wouldn't be in the same spot. I think a year ago, probably right about now, we were staring Milton coming right down the pipeline. And then a few weeks ago was the 1-year anniversary of Helene. And then a few weeks before that was Debbie. So we're 1 year out from 3 very catastrophic storms. And when we're operating off of 244 and we're telling everybody you can't go to the 3rd floor of this building because there's a chance that if the storm were strong enough, significant damage would occur and safety to the responders of the EOC, that's what we've been looking to solve for years now, is how do we get a building that is sustainable through a very heavy disaster and event, but is also usable in a blue skies environment. We have to solve for the most dangerous first. And that is an Ian, a Helene, a Debbie, a Milton, all of those things. What happens if that hits the city of Northport again? All of the other ancillary pieces are how can that building how it could also be functional when we're not staring down the center of a cone path for a hurricane, and how can we ensure that the citizens of Northport throughout all these events are taken care of to the best that we can as police, as fire, as emergency management, and as city employees. That's what this building is about. And delays to that really do mean we stay with status quo of what we have here. So.
I have a quick related question.
Yeah, Vice Mayor. Hold that thought though, Commissioner.
When you're rebuilding the fire station, what hardening is that gonna be at?
It's the same, the critical infrastructure category 4.
Okay, so wouldn't it be possible to just add on like an extra conference room at that same rating for the emergency management process only, as like a training room, emergency management, not worried about the building department being in there, just at that point. But as you're constructing the fire station, rather than having a standalone building, you incorporate it into the new station. And then it's there. And I think the cost would be a lot less because all you're doing is adding on. You're not doing a separate building. You're just, yes, you would redesign the fire station to incorporate whatever type of square footage you needed for this building.
And great question. And those conversations had come up before we designed. Obviously, they're getting ready to tear the fire station down and rebuild it starting in a couple of weeks. To paint the picture that 244, as we've known it, we've operated with that small room for ever. I mean, as long as I can remember, that's been the room the city has used for the EOC. The EOC build is much more than a singular room, right? So keep in mind that if power fails, there's no water, everything is like we were in Ian. That building is the building that functions to keep all the emergency response going throughout the city for that entire event. So it houses city employees for the entire event. So it's not just a room, it's bunk space, it's kitchen space, so meals can be prepared. It's separate meeting rooms because as we go through these processes, I think some of you commissioners have been around, we pick up from the EOC, we go plan a strategy meeting, a tactics meeting, the EOC still functions, and then we move back into it. So all of the spaces that are in the EOC, I was there throughout the entire design, were trimmed down to just like you're saying, what is it that we need? There are very little wants in that building. Those are all needs. If they're in that box, I guarantee you at this point, as we stand in front of you today, they are only there because they are what's needed in order to make that building what it needs to be to provide those services throughout some of the biggest disasters that we could ever think of. So it's a little more than the meeting room. I think that's where a lot of thoughts go. That's what we've been using. We're trying to get away from that because we have found it's not sufficient. It won't sustain time.
Right, and I fully understand that, and I've been through emergency management for quite a few years here, working with the city as well, and that's the key. We are in an emergency situation. It's time to buckle up and get the works done, and no matter how we do it, we do it. It doesn't need to be in a luxurious setting, okay? If we just get what we need out there to incorporate all these people in that emergency, then that we've accomplished that goal. That's all I'm trying to get at, because they're sitting up here talking about trying to incorporate different things and to where we can utilize our monies properly going forward. Because as the mayor put, $13 million is a big price tag. Can we do it cheaper? Can we receive the same goals? And that's why we're trying to incorporate other things. You know, I understand why you went with the building department. They need room for their inspectors. But it doesn't mean we can't put portables out back either. Because in the old days, the old city hall just popped up a trailer and that's where the building department went, right outside of city hall. So it depends. Yours is totally different as a requirement, not for the inspectors though. They can work at a desk in a trailer as long as it's AC'd. You guys, you have different needs, different specifications. I understand that. Just may not be the proper partnership at this time for the results that we're looking for. And we're looking to save money, and it's coming. You know, we have to start looking at that. I'm not saying we're killing it, but it's difficult right now with what we need and what's coming in. We got to decide what's going out, and the citizens come first. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess we are slowly getting to reality that faces us, and I support the project wholeheartedly, and especially, you know, in those situations that might arise each year, and that year that all of us are dreading, the hurricane season. I guess we need to have to adapt to a reality that faces us. During the budget process, I voiced the concern that we're going to be facing with the reduction of income tax, the real estate tax revenue. And at that time, we kind of dismissed it and not seriously, not too seriously. But as we progressing, we see that at least the homestead will be raised, and the primary residence would be tax exempt to some extent. At least that's what I hear from other sources. As a matter of fact, the committee I attended this past Monday, some of the commissioners from neighboring communities attended the seminar where they were informed of future decision from the governor's office, and there were serious decisions that will be made. They all said that it's gonna come. It's just a matter of time and the extent, but it's gonna come. I guess we have to have a multifunctional type of approach. What can we use? And if we, I really like Vice Mayor's suggestion, if we can incorporate into one building and have a multifunctional use of the facility, whether for the emergency situations or regular fire department, that would be ideal. And I guess we have to look into those options because sooner or later, we're gonna get to that situation where we're gonna be cutting, not to mention proposing new projects. So that would be an ideal situation to look at multifunctional use of any of our facilities and any of our assets that we have. And maybe we can, I don't want to make a decision now, but maybe we can postpone that, or maybe we have to explore more. I know it was based, as the city manager said, it was based on the previous commissions, boards, and multiple city managers, but times are changing, so, and we have to adapt and be adaptable to those changes as well. I guess if we stay in line and do not adapt, we're gonna hurt ourselves. And that's just that's what I wanna address in the reality check. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, before I recognize Commissioner Duval, I would just say again, one, if we do nothing, okay, if we simply have this, finish up this debate and we all exhaust ourselves, then this just goes forward and it just gets done. What's the next step?
We're bringing to you a proposal to finalize the funding of the project. If you don't say move forward, we don't move the project forward because there's a gap in the funding that's needed. You've approved $11.2 million of it?
12.1.
That's what I mean, if we approve the funding.
No, you've approved most of the funding.
Right.
We're asking you now if you agree with the pathway to approve the rest of the funding.
And if we agree with the path to provide the rest of the funding.
Then we go forward.
Right,
If
and
you
there's
don't,
nothing the commission needs to do, you're just go build the building.
Well, I think we need to bring it back to you as an agenda item that would sort of get you to dot the i's and cross the t's of us doing that funding. But if you say, no, we don't want to do this, or you want more information to make your decision, then we would bring that back to you. And we could do that at a regular meeting, and that way you could actually vote on it and then make that decision from that day.
Or one-on-one, if they wanted to look at the floor plan, we could do a one-on-one so I could show you guys the floor plans again. If you
Yeah, if we need to, like she just said, if we need to bring back you individually to give you more information before you come back collectively, that's fine as well.
Can't show the floor plans.
I mean, I don't, let me recognize Commissioner Duval. I apologize, David. Go ahead, you're up, brother. I'll come in
Thank you,
after
Mayor.
you.
I just have a quick technical question. The new fire department, is that gonna have a backup generator and/or battery backup for that generator?
Yes, sir. All fire stations are required to have generator backup.
The EOC building, if it gets built or if it gets attached to the fire department, or if it does not get attached to the fire department, is there battery backup? Is there a generator backup for that building also?
For all of those type buildings, yes, sir. So whether it be an EOC, a fire station, police facility, all of those are considered critical infrastructure, and the requirements are they have generator backup.
Okay, and I would just add in, if the plan changes and the EOC building gets attached to the new fire station, or even if it doesn't, if it's clear by, could you put it in the plans where the backup generator for one building can also feed the other? You know, so it can switch back and forth. In my experience, I hate doing this all the time, but I do it anyway. I worked in nuclear power plants. We had 3 plants, all in Lake Ontario. If one plant lost its power, it could get power from the other 2 stations, as well as from off-site or off the grid, and not one backup generator, but 3, and 3 banks of backup batteries. I'm just saying is, maybe add in a plan where you could, have a substation, connect the 2, that's all.
So just to clarify, the Fire Station 81 that is being rebuilt essentially as we speak, that is contractually moving forward with the design that we have with the contractor. So that's being torn down. The EOC is planned to have its own generator because it is a separate building. If the EOC were to ever be paired up with another critical infrastructure style building, then yes, you would be able to size the generator appropriately to then power all of it. Essentially, what we have right now with Station 81's rebuild and the EOC is that those generators are sized to then run both buildings. So you would get some economies of scale with doing this style idea with, say, another building, but you would still end up with a bigger generator because you would still power both.
Thank you.
All I would say is, so the takeaway from this workshop for this item would be, do we, give direction for staff to move forward on the funding options? Okay, in and of itself, it's not a bad ask. I mean, if there's no alternatives in terms of the conversations we've had about consolidating needs and facilities and all that stuff, we need to, obviously provide this facility. So, I guess in my mind, I don't have a problem as long as by giving direction to move forward, and utilize, these funding sources, that just, this project's still got to come back before us, okay, before it gets finally approved. In the interim, is there any appetite for us trying to create any kind of additional direction about thinking about this project as it's designed in a fashion that allows us to combine or consolidate? Is this really the best spot? Should it be on the site by Toledo Blade where the police headquarters was going to go? And then allow the space. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Is there anything more to yet discuss about this project? Because we're not going to really get much of a chance except when it comes back for final approval, and then it's sort of like, oh hell, now we got to undo our plan, because the plan is for it to be built right there in City Hall. And maybe this is the best way. Maybe it just is what it is. I don't know. But, I don't know what anybody else thinks about this. Like, are we just, sharing some concerns we have, and that's it?
I think for me, I would like to consider a different location for the EOC. There's great value in having it located in the same area as a police headquarters. So I'm going to be aspirational when I say that at some point in the near term, our police headquarters will be out on Toledo Blade, and we'll have the EOC there. I'd have to dig back into the police headquarters plan, but I'm sure there would be separate power generators, there would be separate training facilities, there would be separate kitchen. So I'm suggesting that we could build the operations center out there, and then when we do start building the police headquarters, there'd be training redundancy, shower and stayover redundancies. We would have to make the redundancies work so that the footprint of the police headquarters could be smaller, read less expensive. We have to at least look at it. I think trying to do it here on City Center Green along with Fire Station 81, I'm hearing is really a stretch. 81 is happening, it's really too late to try to leverage some consistencies there. But the Toledo Blade location is within spitting distance of 2 fire stations, and plans for a third a little further out east. Somehow, folks, we have to make it work. We have to make it work.
Well, I got a question. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Let's just say the path continues forward as it was presented and we're moving forward into the next steps, how much money would be, you know, paid out, like permitting this, that, and the other, before you come back to see us again? Would any monies be expended between now and that point?
So I would have a couple of challenges. If we're looking at now co-locating PD headquarters in EOC on Toledo Glade, which I think I just heard, we don't have the PD headquarters designed that way, and they are completely designed now. We didn't have room for expansion on that site where we may just pop down in EOC, and here comes Chief. So it doesn't look like that right now. So there would be some effort involved with redesigning and trying to figure out how to do that.
A new design.
A new design, yeah.
Was that a new design on the PD is what you were stating?
For both.
It would be both.
For both.
Really, yeah.
Rip everything up and start all over.
Yeah. And then Elena was kind enough to share that, you know, if planning, their needs really aren't met out that far, they need to be more central, so we would lose them as a partner, probably, if we relocated.
Right. There are no good answers to this.
On Duval ones.
Mr. Duval?
Yes, if we do change, you know, and decide, okay, let's build this up and, you know, where the police station's gonna be. Right now, we have just about $11 million available that we've already appropriated. So we're a couple of million short of the overall project. But we do have the 11 million, and some of that money came from development services by taking some of their money. Okay, and if we change it to the police station, are we going to be able to take that development services? Because some of their people, yes, no, I think that's exactly what I'm getting at, is right now, development services would be able to use some of the planned building. And if it goes to the police station, well, now they're not gonna go with it, and there goes some of that money.
Yes, and so actually the money from development services from the building fund is on top of the 11 million. So that money actually closes the deficit completely. So we currently are presenting to you a project that allows us to break ground. So it's shovel ready now. So her fund closes that gap.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, commissioners? Petra?
What's the square footage of the building that you are requesting to be built apart, just specifically for your department? Not
So-
developmental, but
So
total.
it's all, the whole building is 16,000 square feet, and that includes a 2,000 square foot generator enclosure. Is that how big that is? So the actual part of the building that we'll be utilizing is much smaller because we need the mechanical room, the data center, things like that, that goes into that 16,000 square feet.
16 plus 2?
No, that includes that's everything. Yep.
Okay.
City manager.
So, Mr. Mayor, based on everything that we've heard today, would you?
Nice try.
Right, would you like us to sort of give you a little time to think about the options that you've told us? We've heard enough to go back and sort of bring back some answers to your questions, and bring it back as an agenda item, and then sort of give those answers, talk to you, maybe in one-on-ones, give you some briefings regarding some of the questions, and then have you make a decision before anything goes any further than today, without you actually having a consensus or any voting today?
Think, gang.
It seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions.
I know for one, I'd like to have a further conversation on this after they've gone back and researched everything and bring it back to us. Once again, they've heard our concerns.
Yes.
Let's put the subject matter experts in gear and have them come back with their solutions.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, because I think there's a lot that has happened since the beginning of this conversation, whenever it began to now, and some of those questions we already have answers for, but some of them, like the suggestion about the combination of the building at Welland Park, which I'd never heard of, but that, is outside the box, and it might make sense. But I think we've heard enough today to bring you back something that will allow you to make a decision.
The other thing I think too is, while time is money, so we always have to be careful about that. At the same time, over the next 2, 3, 4 months, once we get in past the Christmas holidays into January, we're going to start to have more clarity on the direction this state's headed. I don't know that they'll have any final plans, but we're certainly going to start to get a picture of what looks like the direction. But something's coming that's going to affect us financially, and the degree to which it does is going to affect how we operate going forward, right even through this next budget cycle that we just already approved. Because, it all depends on when we're going to start to see some cash hits. So it buys a little more time. It doesn't, I don't know if it'll provide total clarity, but it might show some indication about what's happening, and it gives us a chance to think about this some more, because like I said, all these decisions are going to have to be, we're just so limited from a financial resource standpoint. You can't argue that this isn't a righteous ask. You can't. It's a righteous ask. It's well thought out. It's needed. All those things are true, but just like the police headquarters, but you got to have the money. You got to have the money, and here we sort of got almost all the money. The only question is that the best use for the money? Because our world keeps shifting under us, and I know this stuff was all approved. It goes back years we've been talking, but if we didn't have 2 horrendous hurricanes, would we be here today at the point of doing this project, or would we be muddling along like we always did? You see, and that's the question too. It's just a lot of money, and worthy of more thought. Anyway, Commissioner Langdon.
If I could just throw out another quick thought regarding the blue sky.
Mm-hmm.
If the space in the EOC plans can alleviate some of the space issues at the current PD, current City Hall, and the Mullen Center, that would help me a lot. Okay? Just a tip.
Yes.
A tip, yeah.
One thing to add on top of.
And I don't want to see no's. I want staff to figure out how to make it alleviate our current space issues here on campus.
And we're happy to do it. We
Good.
partnered with Elena, and whoever else wants. GIS is moving over to us too, so we'll have some IT staff in there day to day as well. So
that would be great.
Happy to help.
The other piece to add too is this project has gone to GMP. So what that means is we've received the response on what that project will cost, which the EMS stated prior. Those bids are held for a finite period of time, maybe 3 months. So if we break beyond a certain point, probably December, they will have to go out and rebid. And if the decision of the board is to stick with the plan, they'll have to go out, rebid, and there will be an escalated cost with that. So for us, the normal timing would be get the GMP, staff scrambled, all the SMEs, all the ideas that we could to bring it to funding, to then still get it potentially in front of you all, and then to move it along with hopes of getting it before there has to be a rebid of a GMP.
I mean, I'm really agreeing with you that doing any redesigns at this point is really not feasible. So let's just figure out how it can alleviate our current space issues, even a little bit. Be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you suffering through our
I appreciate you guys,
conversations
I'm always up for a challenge. And I'm always up for a great discussion, and I appreciate all of your questions. Thank you.
One more emergency to manage.
It is. It's what I do.
Yep.
Anything else, anybody, or are we good? No?
Thank you.
What do we want to do, gang? It's 10:01. Do we want to have a lunch break, or do we want to try to just push through and do the final item? Up to you.
How long is that gonna take?
What? The final item? Maybe take a small break and then just come back and plow? Or what do you want to do? Staff hasn't eaten, like, you know, what do you want to do? Yeah, and Commissioner Langdon has an obligation she cannot miss, so.
Take 10 minutes and come back and finish
Yeah,
it
let's
up?
just do a quick 10 minutes to stretch our, oh, I'm sorry, Sam?
Well, I was trying to ask them how long they thought this was going to take. There's only one page that's in the item, and I think we were going to sort of show you the links in there to get the information that you need. Well, not that you need, that we are doing now with this process. So I don't think it'll be a long item.
The presentation itself is not long. We were just going to demonstrate to you what information is available to you now and where to find it, and then ask for input as to what the commission wants to see going forward.
You want to just plow through? I don't care.
You mentioned staff is hungry and they haven't eaten, they're fine.
Oh,
Right.
why didn't you?
Jerome's got his
Let's take a
lunchbox
vote.
down there.
Do we want to take a quick 10 though, just
let's
a bathroom
take 10
break?
and come
Take
back
10
and finish it
and
up.
then come back. All right, so let's be back in 9 minutes. Oops, we're reconvened, it's 1 o'clock. We're here without Commissioner Langdon. She had an appointment that she had to attend, so we are back for, see where it is. Item, 25-2796, discussion possible direction regarding development review administrative approval process. City Manager, your item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to turn it over to Ms. Lori Barnes, our Deputy Director for Development Services.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Lori Barnes, Development Services Deputy Director. We have prepared a staff summary for you regarding our administrative approval report, which you've been receiving on a weekly basis. And we understand the Commission had some input or some asks as to what we might incorporate in that administrative approval report. Most recently, we have started including the link to our development viewer map for you all to be able to look up those projects as to where they're located and the basic components of those projects. So I wanted to give you a highlight of our improved development viewer map. If you click on that link in the email, say for example, we had a project that was approved administratively and a development order was issued, you could link on the development viewer map and then you can locate that project. I'll use the Imagine School for example. If you click on the property in the development viewer map, you'll receive a pop-up of all of the basic information of the project, including the location of the site, how large the site is, and the general components of the project. At the bottom of that pop-up, you can click the link to view your image site layout. And that will show you the site plan that has been reviewed by the Development Review Committee and approved administratively. Now, some of the commentary at prior meetings, first was inquiries about groundbreaking and hearing about them late or after the fact. The Development Services Department does not control or necessarily have all of that information available to us as far as groundbreakings are concerned. The Chamber of Commerce really leads the charge in welcoming new businesses through a ribbon cutting and sometimes groundbreakings. Now, if we do receive information or invitations to groundbreaking ceremonies, Imagine School is a good example. We received a communication last week inviting us to their groundbreaking, which we forwarded up to the city manager's office for sharing with you all. There was some commentary about seeing things on Facebook. There's lots of things going on Facebook, and we don't necessarily know every project that is coming down the pike based on somebody who is out there doing a survey or even doing an environmental assessment. They may not have applied for a pre-application meeting. They may not have a formal application in progress. But what we can do, and we'd be willing to if the Commission's consensus is for us to do so, is we've initiated or will be initiating quarterly economic development updates. As part of that presentation, we can do an overall development services update, and we can bring you into the loop as far as all of the applications that are currently in the review sequence as part of that presentation. Now, alternatively, all of that information is available to the public and to you all on Acela as far as applications that are currently being reviewed by our DRC. I believe that there was an inquiry about economic impact of all of these projects that are reviewed administratively. One of the things that we can easily accomplish is providing the Commission with an estimate of annual ad valorem tax revenue should those projects be completed and come to fruition. A broader economic development impact statement for every project would involve purchasing software and dedicating staff time more significant than doing an ad valorem calculation. So that would be something that we could consider contemplating in, a mid-year budget adjustment or next year should the commission wish us to proceed in that direction. I believe those were the highlights of the prior discussion, so we're happy to hear your feedback. We're happy to do what we can do to improve the report so that it helps you be more aware of what's happening in the development review world.
Appreciate it, Lori. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any discussions on this item? Any thoughts anybody's having? Commissioner Petrov.
Thank you, Mayor. I do really appreciate this presentation because we do learn a lot of new developments at the later stage from Facebook, as the mayor said at the previous dialogue when we had this conversation. I would like to have any major updates to be communicated with us, with Acela, specifically permitting changes, any major permitting changes, and any commercial new development, because otherwise we have to kind of dig on our own and find out what's going on in that area, what's being developed there. And I've learned through my short time here that I've learned from citizens what's going on with the new development, commercial development, than from the staff. And I just like to communicate that this is a right step in this direction to inform us what's going on. Quarterly reports is probably sufficient. I guess monthly is too much. But yes, we would like to be in the loop, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
My concerns with the report, I like this, and it does, if you work with it, just like if you go on the city website, you can navigate yourself through and find these development projects. But like Commissioner Petrov says, invariably, every couple of weeks, they'll be like, oh, this parcel on this corner is being cleared, and like, what's going on? What are they doing? This and that. I also share his concern over that, like, a lot of stuff I hear, I get tipped off to because I see it. Because it's affecting neighborhoods, so people see, oh, somebody's in there and they're clearing trees and they're doing this and they're doing that. But this all points to a bit of a larger conversation that perhaps we can talk about, since it's a workshop, is the ability for us as commissioners to better understand how y'all are operating. The separation between commission and staff, we all have our perceptions on, okay? The charter does a wonderful job in smoking and clouding up the entire, it's just not clear, and a lot of stuff isn't identified as to who does what to who. We kind of know, we give direction, we approve the dollars, we set policy, and staff figures out the how-tos and operates the city. But maybe we're missing an opportunity to meet on a regular basis, a monthly basis, where a workshop takes place where, like our orientations, when I went through orientation, and I'm sure Commissioner Duval and Petrov, when they did, I found it invaluable to be able to sit down with staff, with the department staff, and get educated. Part of was how it works, how their departments work, this, that, and the other. The other was what they're working on now and what's current. Is there value in addition to getting this monthly report on development, projects from development services, is there a need, a want, a desire to rotate through and have the opportunity for commission as a group to sit with the department in a workshop environment and literally have verbal go-backs, face-to-face. What about this? I heard about that. Have these conversations that, one, don't interfere with the average day-to-day operations of you all. And don't create a disconnect between what some commissioners know and what other commissioners don't, because that is an issue very often when there's the ability to garner information in an inequitable way. And could this help solve some of our disconnects and and create better understanding as to what's going on in our various departments? Maybe, we can rotate. We can, 1 month it's development services, 1 month it's economic development, 1 month it's public works, and depending on issues that are out there, and its subject matter should be directed by commission, not just, you all are going to make yourselves available for us so we can have a BS session. It needs to be structured to where by a certain date, the items that commission would desire to discuss with staff face-to-face would be submitted by a deadline. Staff would then have adequate time to research and prepare for it, and then we have that get-together. I'm trying to create a better communications and working relationship so we can bridge a little of what you all are doing versus what we see and what we hear. It would help me, I think, and it would keep commission's feet to the fire to create that agenda. I mean, it wouldn't just be, next Thursday's, community, and we show up and select, what do you all want to talk about? It's like, there needs to be issues to discuss, subject matter, but should there be more than this? I mean, I don't know. I'm just, this one item in a narrow sense pointed to a concern we had when we all agreed with the ULDC. We will have so much would become administratively approved. How would we, the commission, know what the heck was going on? And so, this report sort of helps some, but it's not helping as much as I'd like it to. It's not that the information isn't there. It's that, we don't know about it in a more timely fashion, and we got to go hunt for it or wait for the report. I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's something better we could do here to help facilitate better communication between commission and staff, and do it in a way that's respectful of staff's time,
Yes, sir. So one of the things that I can offer, I know that.
Yeah, that's really a CM.
Yeah, so we've talked about this, and what we've said that we were going to do is, as we talk about economic development, the question that we answered today was the one that was asked regarding, we don't see things that we don't approve anymore. And so now you can go and you see where they're at, you can see them on the map, and those ones have already been approved. What's outstanding, and I'm just talking about the economic development angle, you kind of broaden it out to the world, but the economic development angle, a lot of people understand that it is a long game, so to speak. It does not happen overnight. There's a lot of things in the process that can be talked about publicly and that can't be talked about publicly. There's a lot of things that happen as they are drawn up and some that sort of fall through. But I think what we need to do and what we're going to do on a regular basis is to show and explain what is going on so that people can get excited about what might happen. But you also have to educate them to what might not happen as well. Because as we see the highs and lows in economic development, that is not something that the general public sees. They may hear about something here or there, and the next thing you know, that thing doesn't happen, and then they try to figure out, well, who's to blame for it, or why didn't it go right? And we should be coming to you and telling you as a board and as a public what didn't go well or go right. But there has to be an understanding of how economic development works and the success rate of carrying projects from beginning to end. We just don't want to set people up for false expectations every time that we hear something good, but we also want them to be excited about the efforts that our team and Lori and her team is driving to take the city forward. And to Commissioner Petro's point, I think, Lori, I'm asking this as a question. Don't we send out a regular newsletter or some sort of information to our cellular users so they know what's changing or what has changed? Do we do that?
The system is automated, and if something has changed, anyone who's registered should be updated Similarly, if there's something changing in a process, then the building official or Elena will send out a notice to our users so that they understand.
Okay, I thought there was some method in place to avoid what you were saying, which was not sort of making directly available the changes to Acela, because it is a new system and it is a huge deal, and there have been several changes since we implemented it in last December. But I just want to make sure there should be a way for users to know about the changes to the system directly.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, you had, some of this conversation is about current development and some of it's about economic development. So City Manager just gave a fantastic overview about how economic development works and getting excited about things. With the current development, there are mechanisms where we can better communicate with you if that is so desired. We have a bi-weekly development review committee meeting. It's an in-person meeting here in room 244. There is an agenda that goes out to all of our DRC reviewers and our outside partners like the school board. Now, if we have pre-application meetings on that agenda, you'll see them. And that's people thinking about bringing development into the city. Similarly, if we have a project in formal review, if they've been issued comments, they are scheduled for that DRC agenda so that they can come if they wish to discuss those comments. We can easily include the commission in that distribution of that agenda so that you can see what projects are coming to DRC. Keep in mind, though, sometimes those pre-apps, they don't ever come to fruition. So even though they're interacting with our department, it doesn't necessarily mean that the project will absolutely 100% come out of the ground in the future. But we can include you in those communications. The DRC meeting is open to the public. It is not a board or committee, so there's no public input involved, but members of the public can come and listen. And that may be some of what you're hearing, because we do have a number of residents who watch those DRC agendas and do come and listen. So we're happy to share that. And then, as far as some of what you hear is rumors, and they're not substantiated. We had an inquiry about, well, is there an urban air recreation facility coming to the city? Well, no, there absolutely isn't. To my knowledge, they haven't called us. They haven't requested a zoning verification letter. They haven't requested a pre-app. So there's always going to be some unsubstantiated rumors out there that we'll not be able to address.
Is the DRC's notice meeting, that's a sunshine meeting?
No, it is not. We are a technical review committee. We do not make decisions based on public input, which is one of the reasons why no public input is involved.
So more than one commissioner can't attend?
Correct.
That'll be a problem. Can it be?
Yes,
so?
it's the meeting right now is an in-person meeting. We could contemplate with direction, including a Microsoft Teams link, but I'm not sure if that brings into the sunshine as well with more than one commissioner. I'd defer to the clerk on that. But we require these to be in person now instead of online. Number one, to meet our requirements under the development permit timelines in the statute, and also to try to build those relationships with our DRC team reviewers and our applicants, and actually be able to be in a room, look at a plan, point, mark, give guidance as to how to change their plan to meet the code requirements, et cetera.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, at these meetings, and you just stated that, they might be happy to come on board, but they sometimes don't come into fruition. At the point that you know that they're not coming, do you update that? Because let's just say a citizen has looked at, this is what's going on, this is what may happen. Target, I'll use them as an example. Target may want to come to Northport, but no, they decided not to. And then an update on why they decided not to, because like you said, or city manager, somebody said, they get the wrong information out there. It's like the city didn't want them, so You know, they just went elsewhere. To have that out there as an informational piece for the citizens, we could say, no, Target decided to go to Port Charlotte because they were more shovel-ready than the city of Northport. There's your answer, not Northport kicked them out. Just curious if that could be implemented or.
I don't see why we couldn't share that information if we have that information. We don't always have that information. Someone may come in for a pre-application meeting and we never hear from them again. Others might be communicating with economic development and they might share why they might not be coming. And moreover, we have projects that have issued development orders. Development orders are good for 2 years. Sometimes they just don't proceed, and most often we don't know why.
And that was the main thing, was if we had that knowledge, and I understand they may not even say, you know, who knows, somebody that started something may have changed their mind and may not be in that financial situation again. But if we know, it's best to let the citizens know as well. If we don't know, we don't know. We can't just come up and create a story. But if we know for X reason, then we could put that out to the citizens and say, no, it's not all the city's fault. They couldn't get permits. They couldn't do this. They couldn't do that. No. This way we can, if we had that information, I think it's shareable. And I think it really needs to be put out there if we had it. That's all.
Understood.
Thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Anybody else? Okay. Staff is looking for a consensus to make the revisions to the Development Review Administrative Report. So, but before we do, I guess, any public comment?
There is none.
You need a consensus for that? You're looking for a consensus?
Sure.
You've given us some really good feedback. I understand that, you know, some of you have certain topics. So yes, a consensus on the items we've discussed so that we know that you're all in agreement that these things are important for you to incorporate into the report. One of the things I mentioned was, you know, the economic impact. There hasn't really been much conversation on your part in regard to how we proceed in that direction. So yes, if we can have some more input, that would be fantastic.
We good, everybody? What's that? Good. All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that covers all our subs. Any general public comment?
Sheila Smith. I am writing to urge the City Commission to preserve the Northport Senior Center and Wake Food Pantry. Both programs serve essential roles in our community. The Senior Center, established in 1977, offers seniors a safe place to connect, socialize, and find purpose. Wake Food Pantry, which took over operations from the Salvation Army after COVID, provides free food 5 days a week to families, seniors, and individuals in need. Both are volunteer-run and operate out of the same city-owned facility. According to the backup materials, the building is nearly 50 years old and requires major repairs, estimated between $4.4 and $5.8 million. While those costs are significant, these structural issues did not appear overnight. Maintenance and inspection records could clarify when these problems began and why they were not addressed sooner. It is concerning that such deterioration wasn't identified in past budgets, so proactive repairs could be funded. The options before the Commission, repair or demolish, will have lasting impacts. If repaired, how will it be funded and what is the timeline? If demolished, will it be rebuilt, and where will these critical community programs go in the meantime? We have already lost the YMCA and the Art Center. Let's not add the Senior Center and Food Pantry to the list. Both organizations provide vital support that strengthens our city's sense of care and community. If this were the Morgan Center facing closure, the response would be immediate. Seniors and vulnerable families deserve the same urgency and respect. Please prioritize repair, restoration, and long-term planning to ensure these essential programs continue to serve Northport residents for years to come. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Well, if there's nothing more, Commissioners, it's 1:24, and I adjourn this workshop.